Politics has helped shape the decision of the polity, from conspiracy theories to good old-fashioned comic politics.
These are the results of tomorrow's election. Okay, you have it already, have you?
I think we've done very well in the very difficult circumstances in which we took over governance.
Plus, politics will fill the polls of the country, from friends to frenemies, even strange bedfellows, to clones and stooges. We go beyond the rhetorics and the drama to analyze the story behind the story.
Let everybody come and say.
The perception in itself does more harm than actual corruption that you have.
Plus, politics, not just another political show. It's about putting you, the citizens, in the know.
And in entertainment, rapper Juice WRLD is facing a $15 million lawsuit from the band Yellowcard, alleging he ripped off their track Hollywood Died. The pop-punk group had had several minor hits in the mid-2000s before breaking up in 2017, claimed that Juice WRLD's smash hit Lucid Dreams lifted melodic elements of their song Hollywood Died without authorization. According to Billboard, Yellowcard's members are seeking $15 million royalties and co-ownership of the song, which reached #2 on the Billboard chart. As part of their case, the band have provided a chart analyzing the two songs' melodic and vocal similarities. Yellowcard are also suing Lucid Dreams co-writer Taz Taylor, producer Nicholas Mira, publisher BMG Rights Management, his record label Grade A Productions, and Interscope Records. And that's it on entertainment, and the very best in sports coming up right after this break. And in sports, in basketball, league defending champions First Bank and Air Warriors will meet in one of the semi-final games of the Zenith Bank Women Basketball League National Final 8, while MFM will slug it out against Dolphins of Port Harcourt. The semi-finals will kick off on Wednesday. Our sports correspondent Udo Kanjaku brings us more.
In the Women's Basketball League, teams jostled for maximum points as they fought tooth and nail to make it to the finals of the championship. In the quarterfinals, Air Warriors defeated Plateau Rocks by 103 to 50 points. First Bank drowned Black Gold 90 to 32 points. In the third game, Dolphins versus Delta Force was the game that kept everyone on the edge, as we saw 2 overtime in the quest to secure a winner. The Dolphins eventually won the game by 89 to 88 points. The coach of the Dolphins ladies, Peter Hamedu, heaved a sigh of relief as his team qualified for the semi-finals of the championship.
That is basketball for you. There's one thing that you must understand in the game of basketball. It's a life and it's a teacher. My team came in so confident because we have played the data before over and over. And they've won. So they come in so relaxed and so per play. So that was the result of underrating any team.
In the last quarter-final match of the day, MFM, also known as the Olukoya Babes, coached by Owolo, beat the Scots Naji-led Customs 66 to 53 points. We look forward to the semi-finals and also the finals of the Women's Basketball League. Udoka Njoku for Plus TV Africa.
And that's our news roundup of events at this hour. For more news updates, please follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa. We'll be back later with more stories making the headlines. Please do join us again. I am Amaka Okoye, and have yourselves a great day.
Sometimes when we see celebrities either on social media, television, or in person, we assume they have it all together, but we forget that they're also human. Well, here are some of the low points of some of your favorite celebrities.
As a young person growing up, I have had to sell akamu on my head. You know, yeah, on a tray. You go like in the morning, like very early in the morning before I go to school. Buy akamu, you know. That's why you should never underrate anyone, no matter the situation. You see them or you find them. When I go to UK and had to play at the Rio Festival Hall with Miriam Makeba, then, oh my God, I'm like, that's akamu selling girl. That was selling akamu. You know, so be inspired. Be inspired. Follow your dream. Follow your heart. Sit back and say, what is my passion in life? What can I do to better the world? And before you know it, you're already making an impact.
When I came to Lagos here after school, I remembered I entered what is called 911. 911 is a kind of lorry found then that they will load Gary, load in at the back. Then in between the driver and the load, we'll have what is called second class. And that is where I sat. And could you believe that by the time I got to Ido and I came down, my box, my shoe, because it took us 3 days from Bender, from Midwest to Lagos, all my loads were loaded. You see, when you pass through such, and when you become somebody, you look back and you look at what people are going through. It makes you to help others.
When I decided to be an apprentice photographer, we were living in Ibutimeta, and I would trek, you know, from Ibutimeta into Willoughby, from Willoughby into cross the Leventis into Ido Road, past Ido railway station, go across the Kata Bridge, and then into Agbogbon, into Broad Street. And I trekked that for 1 whole year. And then finally when I got to London, I had to be a cleaner, you know, every morning. Get out of the house by 4:30 to clean till 9 a.m. and then rush off to school. So I've done quite a lot of things like that, and I still continue to do that. And so for me, it is part of one's development. And I didn't see that I was suffering. Occasionally, you know, you want to stop. You have cried many times. I've failed many times, but I've just got up. I get up again. A lot of people, I enjoy goodwill of some people who pull me up again and help me on my feet, and then I go on.
I finished that film and I became very famous. As young as I was, I didn't even know what it was. Everybody would just be calling me over. I'm like, what's wrong? What's going on? When the film was all over the place, so I couldn't go to the market. And I used to go to the market a lot, you know, to go and buy all these second-hand, all the second-hand outfits. And then there was one day I went to the market with a couple of my friends, and I just realized that I just couldn't buy these things anymore, because they would tease me. The people in the market, the traders will always tease me and said, so you see, they come buy Bendam Boutique, you know. So that made me realize that, oh, so if I become a star, there are a lot of things I won't be able to do, or what? So I went back and I said to myself, is this how I'm going to live my life? I won't be who I want to be. I won't be myself. And I said, no, I won't let that catch up with me. Just be who you are, no matter your craft, no matter how high you think you've become. Still be that same person that the girl next door, still the girl or the boy next door that people can always relate to.
Hello and welcome to One-on-One on Plus TV Africa. I'm Elsie Godwin. On this episode, we're one-on-one with the creative director and founder of JB Multimedia Studios, founder of VR360 Stories, and a documentary filmmaker who made history at the Venice International Film Festival as the first African to win the Virtual Reality Awards for his VR docu-film, Daughters of Chibok, Joel Akachukwu Benson. Thank you for being here. Well, at least you wrote it, right? So
chasing up people on the phone so that they could tell me, give me some information that I needed to get, you know, if it was, you know, sleeping in church because there was nowhere else to stay, but I had to, well, lay my head somewhere, you know. So, I mean, all of those things, I never saw them as my destination. You know, it's always like, okay, this is just a bus stop. You know, there's somewhere else that we're going to. And yeah, just kept my eyes on the end game. And even here right now, there's still an end game.
So what's this end game right now?
I don't know. I guess the end game, because the end game always shifts, it keeps you constantly motivated, you know. So the end game is to be better than where I am now, right? And that's you're never going to get there because you'll always strive to be better, you know, regardless of whatever you achieve. If you win one award for your film, I guess you want to win another one, right? You know, if you make one great movie, I guess you want to make another one, right? So you don't rest on your oars. You just keep pushing yourself. Stay hungry.
Okay, so what was it like when you won that award? How did you feel climbing that podium?
It was one of those surreal experiences. Because I remember that when we sent in the film for the festival, I honestly wasn't expecting to hear back from them. But I heard back from them in a very short time. I think it was like maybe 2 weeks or something like that. And I remember that I didn't want to open the email. I just kept staring. I was like, what have these guys told me now? So something else said to me, hey, they've rejected you now. That's why it came so fast. You know, I'm like, well, I mean, I'll just open it. So I clicked on it, and then, you know, they were just increasing the suspense for me. Then I say, click on the attachment.
Okay.
Like, attachment. It's like, I clicked on it, and it was a letter, you know, saying, oh, congratulations, you know, your film has been selected, you know, to play in Venice and also be in competition. And that was like, wow. For us, that in itself was a big deal because it was the first time, you know, that, you know, an African VR film would play in Venice. So we're okay with that. Went to Venice, have fun. It was fantastic. I was even preparing to start coming back to Nigeria. And then, you know, they said to me, oh no, sorry, you know, we need you to stay around for a couple more days. And, you know, you'll be picking up an award. And that was, so we knew we were going to win the award a day before the award ceremony, you know, we were told. But it was, I remember when they told me, I was in tears. I was, you know, I didn't expect it.
All right, so documentary is a very interesting art. I don't think we have too many Nigerians that would gladly come out and say, I'm a documentary filmmaker, but that's how you like to describe yourself. So what drove you to choosing documentary?
Well, I mean, I've always been drawn to real stories. I think that we're not telling enough of those, especially in these parts. I'm drawn to real issues, you know, real human beings, real stories, you know. I've always been drawn to, so I mean, I guess that's what drew me, you know. So it's easy for me to see a film and say, okay, yeah, the script was well written and all of that. But in a documentary, it is what it is, you know. So if you say someone like Yana in my film that we took from Chibok to New York, I mean, how do you make that up? How do you script that, you know? And so that for me is, so watching that makes me believe that it's possible for anyone, you know, anything is possible, just because I know that hers is a real story. And yeah, real stories have always intrigued and attracted me, like a moth to a flame.
Okay, what would you say is the challenge or the challenges of documentary filmmakers in Nigeria?
Well, I mean, documentary filmmaking is not as hip as fictional films, and so it doesn't get as much support, right? If you walked up to someone now and said, hey, look, I'm making a documentary film about so and so and so, and I need funding, you know, chances of getting funding will be slim. So I think that the greatest challenge for documentary filmmakers really is funding to pursue their personal projects. You know, I don't know yet of any grants for documentary filmmakers. There may be some that exist, but I've not come across any. You know, so I think funding is a major challenge. The stories are there, without any doubt. But how do you get to tell the stories if you don't have the funds? So for people like us, you know, we self-fund our projects all the way because we believe in it.
So what would you say about commissioned documentary? Do you think it takes away the art of the storytelling, or
the independence, right, of the storyteller? Well, it depends on what. So there are two types of commissioned work. I mean, there's commercial videos that someone says, "Oh, make me a documentary on my business." Well, I mean, you have to tell their story. But say I wanted to make something on I don't know, police brutality, for instance, and I sought funding. I don't think the best place for me to go to would be to the Nigerian Police Force to fund me to make a film on police brutality, because it will be tainted.
Okay.
So I would have to go to an NGO that probably believes in, you know, human rights, equality, and all that kind of stuff. But I also have to set the boundaries from the beginning, right? That, look, I would need my creative independence to tell the story the way I would like to tell it, you know. So it's all about negotiation. You have to learn how to negotiate and navigate those landmines, so to speak, so that your artistic integrity stays intact. You know, otherwise you might as well just be making a commercial.
Okay, so what do you think every young filmmaker should be concerned about, especially in this digital age and things evolving so fast? What should they focus on and be concerned about?
Focus on the story and tell it honestly. Tell it from your heart.
Okay.
That's the most important thing. It doesn't matter what kind of equipment you have, you know, what kind of gear you have. Just focus on the story and tell it honestly. I mean, the film that we made that won the award, you know, was side by side with studio budget films, right? And, you know, we use better equipment, better, you know, I mean, a more robust structure and system supporting them. But, you know, I mean, we still came out, you know, okay at the end. So I would say just follow the story and tell it honestly. That, I think, is the most important thing. Every other thing is secondary.
Okay, so we'd like to find out how you got into virtual reality. But before that, let's go on a very quick break, and when we come back, we'll carry on this conversation. Welcome back. This is 101 on Plus TV Africa, and we still have Joel Benson in here with us. So before we went on that quick break, I told you I wanted to know how you got into virtual reality, because I know you've been a filmmaker for a very long time. So how did you get into VR?
Into VR, right? Yeah, so I'm making this film in Borno State, and a friend of mine, Brahma Mohammed, says to me, "Hey, look, you know, can we make something in virtual reality?" I'm like, "What's that?" He said, "There's this camera that if you use it and shoot, you know, you now bring people into this place as if they are here." Like, dude, man, my camera is good enough. Let me just, you know, I didn't take what he was saying very seriously. Fast forward a year later, a lady who I've done a lot of work for, Damile Logumbi, calls me up and says, "I want to make a 360 video in Kano." And I said, "But ma, I don't do 360 videos. What is that?" They explained to me. I said, "I don't do that much." She said, "Go and figure out how to do it and bring me my results." She's not someone that you can easily say no to. So I started doing my research. Cut a long story short, I had to fly out to go buy the camera and learn how to use it. And I remember the first time I wore a VR headset was in VR school in Chicago. And the moment I wore that headset, I remember what that guy told me, what Brahma told me, you know, the year before. It's just this immersive experience. And it was just a beautiful experience for me. I was like, wow, wow. So bought the equipment, did the training, came back to Nigeria, and that was it. My first project was in Bakassi, which was my first VR film, which is, I mean, arguably the first VR film out of Nigeria, really, you know. And from then on, it's just been, you know, no looking back.
Okay, so from what you said that you had to invest in yourself,
Oh, yes.
to be able to make this happen?
Yes.
How much would you say, roughly speaking, that you invested?
In the beginning?
Yes.
It cost me about 5M.
About 5 million?
Yeah.
So, I mean, virtual reality is like the new cool. Everybody wants to move with the trend and know what is going on. But this trend seems to be the one that is far-fetched, especially when you don't have the funds. So for a regular person who is picking interest in VR, where can they start from?
Well, I mean, there are cheaper cameras that you can start with. Google is your best friend when it comes to training.
Okay.
Go online and read up some stuff. So personally, if I can afford to go to a physical school, I don't like to do stuff online.
Okay.
I'd rather go to the school, pay the money, and learn it so I can ask all the questions, no matter how silly they are, right? But yeah, you can start online. You can read up on it online. You can buy a cheap camera. The cameras are like $500, $600 that you can start with, and just get your teeth into the game and build from there. Remember what I said in the beginning? It's really, at the heart of it, is really about the story. If you make a great story, right, that wins an award or gets you recognized, then people will come and meet you and say, hey man, look, we want to make another film. Can you do it for us? Or people will say, we would like to invest in you, that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm hearing all of that now.
Okay.
You know, that would be my 10 cents worth.
Okay, so why did you choose to tell the story of the daughter of Chibok using this medium?
Well, Chibok is a place, or the Chibok story is a story I've always been curious about. When the story broke in 2014, you need to remember that there were so many versions of that story. The government was saying one thing, international press was saying one thing, local press was saying another thing. So we didn't quite know. Even till now, there's still some shroud of mystery around what really happened to these girls. How did 276 girls just get picked up in the middle of the night in a community? And, you know, so I made up my mind that I would go to Chibok. Anytime I have the opportunity, I would like to go and find out for myself. So I was making another film that in the Northeast, you know, that took me around like 6 states, and we passed through Chibok. And when, you know, we stopped for a day or two, which now extended into a week, because I got very interested in what I was doing, met the people, met the women, met some of the girls, and then it was like, you know what, I'm going to stay here for a few more days and see what I can make of this story. That was it. It started as curiosity.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why did you think the VR medium was the best way to tell the story?
Have you been to Chibok?
I haven't.
Do you know anyone else who's been to Chibok, apart from me?
No, I don't.
Great. So VR takes you to Chibok. That was the singular reason why. I could have done a regular documentary, which is what I was doing when I was there, you know. But I felt that because it's such a faraway place, and a lot of people haven't been there, but they've heard about it, I felt that with virtual reality, I could take them there and show them what I saw, sort of like relive the experiences that I had there. And I don't think we've been far off the mark on that. Okay,
so what were your feelings and emotions while you were conversing with the people of Chibok, especially the lady, the center of the character?
The women, yeah.
Yeah, what did you pick out of that?
Well, I mean, obviously the biggest emotion that you would sense there, or the strongest emotion that you would sense there is grief, right? They are mourning, they are still in waiting, and they're crying and waiting for their daughters. But I also saw a lot of poverty, you know, and when I say poverty, I don't just mean, a lot of people are poor, right? And I mean, for how long can you talk about that? However, in the case of these women, what I saw was just wrong. Now, these are women who have experienced a tragedy that literally brought the world to a standstill, at least for a few days. And then you still have them going through these things that are easily manageable. So you have parents who are dying because of trauma directly linked to the loss. You have people who have stroke. They can't move now because of that. And I'm saying to myself, and I'm asking them, is there no therapy? Is there no one taking care of you guys, like, you know, asking, looking out for your welfare? And the answer is no. And I still think that's very, very wrong on so many levels. And so the Curiosity Project now became a campaign of sorts to use the film as a vehicle to draw attention to the plight of these women and say, hey, look, guys, we can't move on. We can't move on as a people. And I've always said that, look, I could care less about, you know, what government is or is not doing. As human beings, we have a responsibility to each other. You can't be walking down the road and see you going through stuff and just walk by. You understand what I mean? I think that that's what's happened, you know, for the people of Chibok, the women in Chibok. They are going through what many of us have never gone through, you know, may not be able to go through. And so they need our support. And that's what this film is all about, getting them all the support that we can get them just to make their lives a little bit easier while they wait for their daughters. That's the least that you and I can do.
Okay, are these supports coming in any way?
Well, yeah, I mean, we've gotten a lot of promises. A good friend of ours who joined, you know, us on this mission, Stephanie Busari, came on board and just did everything in her power to make sure that, you know, she could get Iana to come to New York, because the film was going to be shown on the sidelines of UNGA, the United Nations General Assembly. And so we met quite a few people in the UN, and promises have been made, you know. But I also think that it would be nice if, because let's be honest with ourselves, right? Woman leaves Chibok, goes to New York to go and seek for support for her people. And we have Nigerians. So I think that we can do more as a people ourselves. Some support is coming in, but more. We're trying to impact, what, 276 families? So we need a lot more support to come in, because we haven't done anything tangible yet. We're just speaking to people and getting the funds, you know, speaking to them to get the funds to come in. But, you know, it's still a challenge. And we hope that, you know, come end of the year, we'll be able to say, hey, look, you know, Yana and all the women and all the men, this is what the world, Nigerians have been able to raise for you. Now you can take it, you know, get something for your farm, get some therapy, get some help, and just know that the world hasn't forgotten you.
All right, so when you got there, I'm still curious about this story, right? When you got there, was there something you saw that completely blew your mind, something you did not expect to see at all?
So I told Yana, take me to your farm.
Okay.
Because she's a farmer, and all the women in Chibok are farmers. And then she takes me to this place that looks like a desert. And I said, no, ma, I want you to take me to your farm. This is not like we're shooting film or anything. Take me to your actual farm. And she laughs and says, my son, this is my farm. And she walks a few feet away and scratches the ground and brings out groundnuts and shows me. I'm like, this is a farm. I think that was something that really, really stayed with me. It didn't look anything like, it didn't look like a place that anything can grow out, anything that really, really stayed with me. It was one scene that really stayed with me in Chibok.
All right, let's go for another quick break, and when we come back, we'll definitely carry on this conversation. Welcome back. So I feel like, because I know you on a personal level, I feel like there's a personal inspiration that made you, that is fueling all the story you're telling. Although the story did not start after the very tragic incident happened to you, but I think there has been a change of balance in your mindset. So would you say the kidnap experience you had has kind of fueled your passion more?
I mean, I don't know. Getting kidnapped was, you know, one of those things that happens to you once in a lifetime and stays with you forever.
Okay.
It wasn't what, I mean, I never expected it to happen, and I thought I would never come back from it. All right. And so when I came back, obviously, you begin to appreciate life a little bit more. And then you begin to ask yourself, okay, so what this means is that I can go at any time. When I do go, what will I be remembered for? What are the things that I would have done that have made any difference in anybody's life? yeah, so I mean, I don't know if that's what's, I wouldn't say that's what's fueling, because then it becomes, oh, okay, so go get yourself kidnapped and then you can get some inspiration to do some cool stuff. No, I just feel like it sort of opened my eyes to being, I said, ask myself some deeper questions, like why do I do what I do? What are the kind of films that I want to make? I mean, is this all about just, getting a quick buck, making money and all of that? And the answer for me was, you know what, look for the stories that matter and tell them, and play your own path in, leaving this place a better place than how you met it, right? Does that answer your question?
I think being kidnapped is one of those incidences that some Nigerians will experience, and they tell you it is time to check out, meaning it's time to leave the country.
Yes.
Did you feel that way at the time?
Oh, well, so I love Nigeria.
Okay.
People who are close to me will tell you that I'm someone that believes a lot in this country, regardless of, all the things that I feel are wrong. I still love Nigeria. I remember when the first day I came out, when I was released, and my younger brother called me and my friend, it was a conference call. And the first question they asked me was, so when are you coming? Because everyone thought I was going to leave. And I said to them, I can't leave Nigeria. It's not possible, not at this time. And in fact, when I came out, I intentionally didn't travel out of the country for like maybe 9 months. Because I knew that if there's anything that would take me out immediately after that kidnap, I probably don't want to come back again. So leaving the country was not a priority for me at the time. It still is not. If I was based in the US now, sure, I'll be able to tell Chibok story. You understand? If we all check out, who's going to tell our stories?
Okay, so are you focusing on the technology for telling the story or the story? Because, I mean, the VR thing, it's, like I said earlier, it's really the new cool in technology, right? So is your focus there or the story right now?
My focus has always been on the story. VR is just another tool for storytelling for me. It's always been about the story. And I, I've not switched from regular documentary filmmaking, from 2D filmmaking. I still do my 2D filmmaking. I will still make documentaries in 2D. VR is just another, what's it called now? Medium of expression. Yes, so I'll still be doing my VR stuff. I'll still do my regular stuff. I'm not very hung up on the technology. It's about the story, always about the story for me. Yeah.
So back to the lady in the story. You recently came back from an advocacy tour to the United Nations, I think, and it was to mark the 2000th day of the Chibok girls going missing. What would you say that journey has done now, and do you think it is a stepping stone for positivity that we're expecting in that situation?
Well, what that tour, what the visit has done, what the film has done, is to remind people again. So, so now we have a lot of people talking about it. I've had people walk up to me and hug me and say, hey, thank you for reminding me. I had forgotten. I had moved on. And so that's great. So what is done, at least in the immediate, is to remind people that the Chibok story hasn't ended yet. There are still 112 girls that are missing. Okay? Now, the next thing is for us to move from empathy to action. And the action is, what can we do for these women whilst they wait for their daughters? So I think that to a large extent, the visit to the UN was fantastic. I mean, she met with the UN Under-Secretary General. She met with the head of UN Women. She met guys at TEDx, at Facebook. I mean, Yana, for a woman from Chibok, man, she met with some high rollers, And like I said before, promises were made, and we hope that the people who have made those promises will stand by their word and do something for them. She was interviewed on Guardian UK, she was interviewed on CNN. I mean, it doesn't get bigger than that in terms of getting attention to the issue. Yeah.
So is there a possibility for people who want to see this film and cannot access the kind of technology needed to see it? Are you going to do anything to make it possible for us to see it in not regular 2D, 3D settings?
Well, I mean, the whole point of making it in 360 is to give people that that immersive experience.
Okay.
And I'm very, very focused on doing that. So in order for more people to see it, we have screenings, you know, that come up regularly where people can come and see it. But obviously those screenings are targeted at raising funds for the women.
Okay.
So which is why like we set up a GoFundMe, you know, so that people can actually like donate funds. So you watch the film, you know, you feel like, oh wow, this is wrong, I want to be a part of this, and then you donate something. So those are, that's what we're doing now, targeted screenings.
Okay.
And so I guess it would be a case of just, you know, maybe following us on our page and finding out what's going on. You'll hear if there's a screening, and then you can come and experience it. It screened at the last Lights Camera Africa Festival,
Okay.
film festival in Lagos. There are also other big film festivals coming up later in the year in Lagos, and we'll be hopefully showing the films there, or showing the film there, so
Okay.
people can always come there and experience it. That's the model for now.
So what next for you? What are the stories on your radar?
Like I said, Africa is full of stories. Nigeria is full of stories, man.
Okay.
I mean, there are a few ideas in my head, but after doing this for, you know, about a decade now, I've realized that the stories that want to be told have a way of just coming out. So I'll just...
So you're not sharing any...
No, I'll ride the tide. I want to do all kinds of stories now. You know me now. My head is restless. My legs are restless. But the film that wants to be told next will somehow figure its way out, and we'll tell it.
Okay, very quickly, do you think the BBC model kind of journalism is the future of journalism?
What's that now? Tell me.
Have you seen the Sex for Grades story?
Yeah, I've seen the...
Yeah, so be investigative journalism, basically, that's
like
what
using
it
like
is.
hidden cameras and stuff.
Do you think that is the future of journalism? Do you think that's what we need to make the change we need in this part of the world now?
As humans, we will always evolve. So it's what's reigning now. Yeah, you know, it's another, like I said, medium of expression. You know, time will come when if all these guys wise up to it, when you walk into their room, they will tell you, go there, strip you naked, dust out everything, wear you back your clothes, and then you can start talking. You know, people will always evolve and figure out ways to circumvent technology and all of that. But it is what it is now, so let's make the most of it.
Okay.
And like I said, as humans, we always evolve. So there will be something else that will come up, you know, tomorrow that, you know, would be the in thing. For now, journalists or filmmakers or whatever who feel like they want to tell stories where they would not easily have access to, but they want to use this kind of technology, should take full advantage of it and use it to its best.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. We've been chatting with Joel Kachi Benson. He is a documentary filmmaker, and he shared his story of going to Chibok and to create the Daughters of Chibok. My name is Elsie Godwin. Thank you for watching. And remember, you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa to catch up on our exclusive content. Thank you for watching again, and see you later.
Welcome to The Advocate. 5 freshly baked topics. No holds barred.
Time to bake a bigger cake.
We must bake a bigger cake. The only problem is where are we going to get the ingredients from, you know?
If I'm in a plane that's about to crash, and you ask me who I want at that helm, I don't care whose brother he is, as long as he can fly that plane. You know, I'm not going to look for someone who is my brother, who speaks my language.
I actually believe that our president has dementia. I know that's quite a controversial view.
I'm glad you're flying out after that statement.
After the break, Folashade is calling for action. 40 seconds of action, to be exact.
And this guy just kept following me. What do you want to buy? I have sheep, I have shit, I have this. I said I want to buy Calon. There wasn't anything like Calon. I don't even know what I said. He said I have it.
I want to dedicate this advocacy to the resilience of the human breed called Nigerians. Probably, no, undoubtedly one of the wonders of the world.
that money will shoot every person that we know can shoot. We don't let people die there.
You could have killed me for a long period of time.
Since that time why I carry gonorrhea. I first go hospital first, but it didn't no go. Now I come make that mama.
He just pulled it, he pointed and shot.
They suffer too much. They suffer too much.
Issues around the Nigerian police. We have to tackle it holistically.
All right, country people, I agree on our top this very o'clock. When Mr. Nate join us for News on the Hour for Plus TV Africa. This is 93 when I want to give on my name, I promise, Nero. Let's say what accident when say involve plenty motor don't cause traffic for $10 bridge inside Lagos. According to the Lagos State Traffic Management Agency, let's say the waka involve like 10 motor when be say one container truck, one pickup, one high capacity bus, and plenty motor that join. The accident here affect motor people when say that they go beggar. And last month, Sama Betayan gave the motor people, say make they use the CMD road from Secretariat to West Beggar till they go give update for the road. As of the time when we say that they find this report, people when say they die, stay there to pick up, and emergency services, they stay there for ground. Let's say the National Secretary and Civil Defense Corps for Kaduna State on Tuesday, they raid 2 rehabilitation homes for Zaria local government area of the state. For the center, when we say that they call Malam Aliyu, my Adakan Salatu Fatai for Zaria, and they take save 11 inmates when we say plenty of them be men and picking them. The 2 centers are there for Limanchi, Kona, and Mamara, and all of them there for Zaria local government area of the state. Just like before for the centers inside Rigasa, the Zaria Rehabilitation Center, get women inmates. That's a Deputy Commandant of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, Kaduna State Command, Nega Aloysius Oyema, when we say parade the owners of the centers, is they say 3 inmates that die because of their bearable condition for the center. The raid for illegal rehabilitation home is start weeks after police saved 300 inmates from one center inside the same Rigasa area of the Kaduna State. Then share all the inmates for the Zaria Center leg and hand. Then the NSCDC Oga say they saved 11 inmates as they follow an intelligence report when the police then gather. He said the inmates they between the ages of 11 and 40 years. They say the Niger community, they talk say 3 Niger people, they among other foreign nationals when we said they began for the fresh xenophobic palaver on Tuesday for different locations of Woodbank, Mpumalanga province, South Africa. The national talk person of the Niger Union, South Africa, Nusa Odefa, he said the brigade start for early hours of the morning. Tuesday brigade they come from the effort by President Muhammadu Buhari and Sri Ramaphosa when we say that they make sure say they look for solution to end the xenophobia palaver. That kind of peace effort, they see Buhari as he goes see Ramaphosa and do one town hall meeting with the Niger community. Group 1 be say they be community members and taxi drivers that go different areas for Woodbank as they begin foreign owned business them and foreigners. Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka for inside one interview with Plus TV Africa, a yarn as a matter take day for South Africa.
There's some kind of collective psychological warp, I think, in the makeup of today's South African. That warp has got to be addressed. We've got to speak very frankly about that. It's something which I have personally experienced, by the way. Okay. And if I have, on more than one occasion, you can imagine what the ordinary people have also experienced. I was nearly sent back from the airport. In fact, it happened twice. And the hostility by even these young immigration officers. In fact, as it happened on that flight, the Nigerian ambassador or high commissioner was, and he even intervened. And it had to do with the immigration officer, a young woman misreading the date on the passport, and insisted I had to go with them to the immigration office. And walking along the way, because she kept looking, I was watching her, she kept looking at it, I saw the moment when she realized she'd made a mistake. And then she flipped over the passport and saw that it was Nigeria anyway, and continued her march. We went up to the office. There was also a friend of mine, a lawyer, who went with us. It was quite a scene. Went to the office. I pointed out what I felt was the error, and fortunately some other senior immigration officers recognized me and came and saw what it was. And they said, no, this girl, her attitude, just because of that passport, it was so hard, it was unbelievable. If I reached the point, as we were leaving, I said to her, you see, I said, I noticed when you saw that that you'd made a mistake. I said, why did you bring us? You needed to see how she flared up. And I said, I'm going to report you. He said, yes, this is mine. Yeah, take a look. Take a look. I was looking at the, so I was, pacified by the senior people and the ambassador who were around to just leave. This happened to me there. It's not the first time. There was another time I was kept there. I was coming from the States at that time, and there was, I didn't have a visa. I was, an emergency thing, I was invited for a lecture. In fact, it was in connection with Mandela's celebration. And I was assured there would be a visa waiting for me at the airport. I don't go anywhere I'm not invited. I was assured there'd be a visa there. Anyway, cut a long story short, it took Gracia Machel. I was already on my way out. It took Gracia Machel to intervene. I said, do you know what you're doing? You know who this is? And she raised hell with them. I spent about close to 9 hours at the airport. I just said, I am leaving here. And after that episode, I did not go to South Africa. I turned down invitations, over 9 invitations in 2 years. I said, I'm never stepping into your country again. I went, give the lectures. I said, I'll do anything for Mandela, his memory, and so on. For me, he's my avatar. I said, dude, but at the end of the lectures, I took my luggage to the lectures. Straight from the lectures, I went to the airport and left. I said, I'm dusting the feet of this guy.
The Nobel laureate, it's a young South Africans, say may they not allow the apartheid experience to hinder their relation with other African nationals there.
South Africans, including some young people who do straightforward business, contributing to that society. And the treatment they receive, there's something very serious. That's why I use the word warp. Something has happened, I think, maybe as a result of the apartheid experience, is suspicion that other people are coming to treat them like, the Boers treated them, a kind of victim complex, maybe also aspects of Frantz Fanon's theory about how victims tend to victimize other victims even much more than their own oppressors. It's something which, let's speak frankly, South Africans have to deal with. One is not denying that Nigerians themselves can be a handful outside. We know that. But then there are other nations also who are more than a handful in other societies.
Let's say the Nigeria Bar Association, they don't say their hand no day for the pursuit of the Deputy Governor of Kogi State, Simon Achuba, by the State House of Assembly. The umbrella body of lawyers, they talk say the pursue is a day illegal, and they know the Constitution because they get the findings of the pro panel when we say they raised for the state by the Chief Judge when we say he clear Achuba say he carry do. The NBA, for instance, was statement by the National Publicity Secretary, Kunle Edo. He talks say on top the matter when say the grant, so it's in a serious concern, and he tell the party to exercise great caution. All right, as they hot like this, we get our Oga for inside the studio. A name na Liberous Oshoma, and a legal practitioner when we say join us. Oga, welcome.
I greet you, my brother.
I like this your packaging.
Nigeria with the
Yes,
Nigeria.
All right, you hear the matter when we say the grant, so on top the pursue of Simon Achuba, when we say the deputy governor of Kogi State. So we get some questions we want to ask you for here, and the number one question we say. The law, when we say they take pursue the Simon Achuba matter come up for power, so you sure say you follow on top the Kogi State matter?
You don't follow at all. Because if you look impeachment for our constitution, section 188, subsection 1 all the way to subsection 10, now spell out how they go fit take command governor and deputy governor for office. Say if you want impeach deputy governor or governor, the House of Assembly, 1/4 of the House of Assembly member go raise allegations, say the man abused the office, and then once they give that notice to Speaker, Speaker now go tell the Chief Judge. The Chief Judge will set up a committee of 7-member panel of people when no the political party, they know the civil service, and then that panel go now call the person. When they allege or those
when they say
he do something, they'll call and make him come talk your own side too. Then they go when they allege waiting in do, you also will come talk your own side. Then the panel gets 14 days to 14 days, 1 month or so to also talk whether the person commit the allegation or no commit am. Subsection 8 for that section 188 say if the panel talks say this allegation when una raise, this matter when I raise against this person, una no fit prove am. That matter they not supposed discuss and pass there. The House of Assembly not supposed talk about them again. Now only when the panel agrees say the person truly do something, because anybody fit stand up say you commit gross misconduct, because gross misconduct they not define them for that section.
Can I be carried do now?
Yes, say you carry do anyhow. Like they talk now, if you do anyhow, you see anyhow. So, and the panel will say, look, for this person to see anyhow, we agree, say, waiting on a talk, true, do anyhow. But once the panel talk, say, you no do anyhow, that matter, they no go discuss. But in the case of Achuba, Simon Achuba, so, the panel talk, say, you no do anyhow. The House of Assembly still go ahead, constant talk, say, whether anyhow when the panel like her, they must come out. Now make the man say, he no agree. Now make NBA say the way we do and so, not be so that they do and not be so constitutional. It illegal. But the one when they pay me inside the matter, be say the chief judge of the state where first refuse say that illegality not do. He self cost go swaying a new person, even though under the eye of the law, the office of the deputy governor. He know they vacant. So Simon Achuba, under the eye of the law, still they occupy that office. But one other small problem when I get with the Simon be say, when you and the governor don't fall out, you suppose don't resign, Tete, so that you go also maintain your integrity. But they sit down for office, even when they don't come out in security aid, stop in salary. You know, this attitude of die for office. Now they cause all of this.
Not true. So which kind of legal action if you say this governor when say they don't pursue now? Deputy governor don't pursue now. What if you say he's supposed to?
But my problem first and foremost be say, we know with the environment when it be say, somebody, people go sit down, they go tear your law for your face. You go tell the other person, say, make it go court. You don't go tell the people, say, wait till you do so, no day our law book. So it no supposed stand. We get Attorney General of the Federation when supposed be the #1 person when they tell government how law supposed be. That man supposed write to the state government to say, this book when una follow so, not be so that they follow. Not be say you go tell the person say go court. Because waiting that they tell the deputy governor now say go court, be say somebody if you just come, kuro I will steal from you. Steal from you finish. Instead now go still stand, say go court. Then when you know say when you go court, they go tell you say justice here they grind slowly. But we also forget where they grind slowly, so justice where you delay, you don't deny the person. An election there around the corner. By the time he go court, before he come back, before the court go say this way they not do well. Time don't go. The office it don't finish. Every other thing that will becomes a school lesson.
All right.
And so waiting they're supposed to do now, every well-meaning Nigeria, NBA no be just to issue statements.
Yeah.
They're supposed to take steps to ensure say this action no stand.
Confirm. Thank you very much, Liberous Ochoma. They say now first go report for police case, 9-win case.
Yeah, but they don't change them. Say no be who first go report, no be the win case.
All right, thank you very much. We'll go one small break when we show back because I'm on another story there. Mona no go anywhere. Let's say Botswana, when we say that they hail as people of peace and stability for Africa because of their regular smooth transfer of power, because they enter on Shatta territory when we say that they do their Ogbonge general election on Wednesday, October 23rd. The before President Lankama, he don't bring tradition to challenge his successor, Mogwesi Masisi, for the post and a shadow on top of the matter over the post with a breakaway party. The Botswana Patriotic Front, BPF, the contest election for the first time. Lieutenant General Kama, he claims that BPF he go get at least 14 seats for parliament with some analysts. When he said that the talk as he go take be from too close to call to one historic defeat for the Botswana Democratic Party, when he said they'll rule the country since independence. They say more than 6,000 people don't lose their homes to water for Bangui, the capital of Central African Republic. Heavy rain don't worsen the plight of people when he said that they stayed there because of the outburst of the river of Bangui last week. Central African Republic lead one climate index, and it still did the least as most of the risks flooding under countries like DR Congo and Liberia. The next one, now our foreign news. Let's say British police see body of 39 people inside one truck container for one industrial estate to the east of London on Wednesday. Police say they believe the truck they come from Bulgaria to enter Britain for Holyhead inside Wales on Saturday. They don't arrest the driver when they say be 125-year-old man from Northern Ireland onto suspicion of Kilikili. The emergency services they see the body for the container inside Waterglade Industrial Park for grace. When we say the River Thames about 20 miles from central London. The 39-year victims, 38 adults, 1 teenager, and they confirmed say they die for the scene. They say the PM go push for general election if the EU propose to delay Brexit until January when we say they come. Boris Johnson paused a Brexit bill on Tuesday after MP they reject a plan to sign them off for 3 days. Now, EU or GADEM go consider whether they go give delay to the 31st of October Brexit deadline and to talk the time when we say go be. One later when we say they'll be forced Johnson to send by law to the bloc after he failed to secure backing for a deal on Saturday. Then they say they call for 1 3-month extension. But one Downing Street source said the Prime Minister will not agree for that long extension.
The ayes to the right, 308. The noes to the left, 322.
Mr. Speaker, I was incredibly concerned when I was reminded by my wife earlier today that my wife and I spent longer choosing a sofa than we have to debate this incredibly important bill.
Speaker, I must express my disappointment that the House has again voted for delay, rather than a timetable that would have guaranteed that the UK would be in a position to leave the EU on October the 31st with a deal. And we now face further uncertainty, and the EU must now make up their minds over how to answer Parliament's request for a delay.
The ayes to the right, 308. The noes to the left, 322.
Mr. Speaker, I was incredibly
concerned. All right, the next one, now our business news.
When I got the call, I didn't believe it. I didn't take it seriously. But I used to think, okay, before they even give to any outsider, they would have done with their family and friends, you know, that kind of thing now. So, but now I know it's real. I didn't know. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any friend in this bank. So I didn't have any family member working here. So now I know it's real. They are sincere about it. And there are other people that need that money. You know, for somebody that has been looking for 50,000, 100,000 to start up anything. And I can imagine that person getting like 1 million naira. You know, I know a lot of people really need that money. And what I can say is they cannot go unrewarded because they are really touching lives.
And on top business, they say the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, they don't recover a total of 759 billion naira from people when we say that they owe them. One report when we say the Central Bank of Nigeria still released, it shows say some of the people when we say that they owe money still drop their properties when we say they like 263.73 billion naira. APCON when we say the federal government put for grant for 2010 to buy bad debt from inside bank and make sure say stability dey the financial sector. They say they don't make cash recovery of 89.97 billion naira for the 2018 financial year from the asset sales and credit repayments. This one bring total recovery from the start to 759.05 billion naira as of December 2018. The Apex Bank say the carrying value of APCON liabilities it go up from 4.53 trillion naira for the end of June 2018 to 5.43 trillion naira as of December 2018. As they come from the corporation investment of 898.45 billion naira in Polaris Bank Limited, according to the CBN, the carrying value of APCON assets, the net of impairment, it go up from 731.55 billion naira for the end of June 2018 to 769.87 billion naira as of December 2018. They say innovation series as every year join body of professionals and people when we say they get business, when we say it be one initiative of Verdant Zeal. This year conference to Better for Technology Growth. And the keynote speaker Isama Betayano give Nigeria to adopt technologies when we say they follow with our current realities. As Nigeria don't miss out for the 1784 mechanical revolution and the 1870 electrical revolution. The internet is burst and not be about to miss out for this digital age. Irene Obani is there and she filed for a report.
The 8th edition of the Innovation Series, which is an initiative of Verdant Zeal, was held in Lagos with a focus on how Africa as a continent can leverage on technology for growth.
We decided to pursue legacy by instituting the Innovation Series, which we have designed to discuss Africa's developmental issues that borders on technology, how we can harness our youthful population, issues around entrepreneurship, leadership, and of course, issues around my own profession, which is still primarily branding and marketing and positioning.
Our situation in Africa is not the situation in Europe, it's not the situation in Asia, it's not the situation in America. So if you are going to apply technology, you have to apply it in a manner that solves challenges in our environment. And our needs are very basic.
As you know, we are in a recessed economy. It's not ideal at this time to increase any tax rates. So our best bet is to try and widen the tax net and increase the number of taxpayers. And that is one heavy objective that is on our minds all the time. And to do this, we definitely must leverage on technology. Gone are the days where we did things manually.
Technology has really helped reduce the price of most things significantly. And now, instead of just a few people having access to leading things in the world, technology is now giving you the opportunity to have these things at your fingertips at a fraction of the cost.
I get very excited when I go for some of these trade shows and you see the number of young people that are bringing in all manner of innovation into the agricultural value chain. So things are definitely changing.
For Plus TV Africa, Irene Ubani.
All right, still ahead for Plus TV Africa News, our roundup for entertainment and sports with the show back. Let's say actress Lori Loughlin, they face one new bribery charge after federal prosecutors bring additional charges against 18 parents when they get money for University of Athletic officials and others when the some accused give say they join hand for the largest U.S. college admission scam ever. The Full House star now one of the 11 parents when they hit with new charges. Federal prosecutors for Boston say Loughlin join hand to bribe universities of Southern California employees to secure the admission of her two daughters. They be charged her, say, and her husband, say, on top of the matter, say they do anyhow. And Moscow Ganuli with Wuru Waka and Moni Kolobi. They face one new charge of collabo to commit federal programs with Wuru. The new charges, they the revised indictment when they file against them, and the other parents, they add to the potential maximum prison terms when they go face if they convict them. For Loughlin case, he say he jumped from 40 to 45 years. All the 11 parents, they don't plead not guilty. All right, that one of entertainment. The next one, now for sports. Let's say Rangers will join the people when we say that they go to the Europa League group, and they don't tell them on top of the matter when we say they play with Porto, make them not sing song or anyhow as they go. They say UEFA not go take or accept anything when we say they go do. The 2 times for this season when we say the club don't get closed section of Ibrox for European games after some shout, and the club say they not go take ticket for the game with young boys inside Switzerland. They don't take allocation for the Thursday game inside Portugal. One club statement, tell fans, make they represent Rangers for the best possible light. And they add, say UEFA don't already put sanction for Rangers, so they say they must open their eye and give them no cause to take more serious action against them. Rangers say for the game, they say the Scottish Premiership side, they thought for the group, and a chance for fans to support the club inside the correct way. All right, now for you, go back break on top this very clock for news on the hour for Plus TV Africa. For better and plenty information, follow us at Plus TV Africa for Facebook, for Twitter, and for Instagram. And it will make sense if you subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa. We will see the salmon and plenty of that to read them as time they go. My name, I promise, Nero. And I thank you that one person that join us. Well done.
Welcome to another episode of Africa on the Move in partnership with DW. I am Fumi Onuajefe. This program focuses on the stories of people in Africa and how their innovations, ideas, and action impact on lives on the continent. On this episode of Africa on the Move, we'll be focusing on migration. Migration is currently at the center of disagreements between the mainly poor-sending countries and the richer receiving countries. Today, the world is more connected than ever. Information, commodities, and money flow rapidly across the national boundaries, a phenomenon often referred to as globalization. Sub-Saharan African nations account for 8 of the 10 fastest growing international migrant populations since 2010. according to a Pew Research Center analysis of the latest United Nations data on the number of immigrants or people living outside their birth country. So we start with Nigeria, where many young women are trafficked to major European countries, convinced that they are bewitched and they're enslaved as prostitutes by network of traffickers. Let's take a look.
Prostitution is not a work. We should stop it.
It's thought between 200,000 and 400,000 women across Europe are forced to work as prostitutes. An increasing number of them are Nigerian, like the woman we just heard. They're lured to Europe with false promises and end up in backstreet brothels or red light districts in cities like Lyon, Madrid, or here in Turin. We join volunteers from a Catholic charity who try to get the girls off the street. 9 Nigerian women currently live in this house in Italy. We can't use their real names. As recognized victims of sexual abuse, they won't be deported, at least for now. Kate arrived in Europe a year ago.
They told me they were going to find a job for me, that there is a lot of job here. But they didn't tell me it's on the streets. The job is on the streets.
For many women, their troubles begin on their way to Europe.
I was raped twice. When I was in Nigeria, the person that buggered me to Kano, and the other time was when I was in the desert. The soldiers, they also did the same.
Networks of people smugglers traffic the women. The networks are headed by so-called madams, women who enslave other women. Having been promised a great life, the women are abused by their captors when they arrive until they give in. The charity we're observing is using an online campaign to try to raise awareness about the plight of the women. Katia is one of the volunteers.
It's very common when the girls tell us that groups of men go to them to rape them together, 1 to 3 at the same moment. They ask them to do many strange things, to pay them like nothing. Like a Nigerian woman on the road is paid 10 euro. You don't buy pizza with Coca-Cola for 10 euro.
Some women have sex with up to 20 men a night. They have to pay off their huge debts. These can total as much as 40,000 euros for the journey, as well as for food, clothes, or cosmetics. But if they go to the police, the women risk deportation. That would shatter their dream of finding a much better life in Europe. In the end, they no longer know whom to trust. Sometimes even the women's own families turn against them.
It used to happen many times that the families suggest to the girls to go back to prostitution. In that case, we understand that they have been sold from their own families.
Katia and many other volunteers here believe the women can still have a better future. She helps them get their papers and report the abusers to police. The women are still terrified of breaking their silence, but they also want to see the traffickers arrested.
People, please be careful when someone offers you greener pastures on the other side of the world. Our next story is on returnee migrants who migrated illegally and have returned home to Guinea. Listen to this story.
Early morning in a chicken farm near Conakry, Mamadou Tulel Bari is working with a project for returnee migrants. In 2016, he attempted the illegal journey to Europe, but he only made it to Niger. He had seen many of his friends die along the way. He himself had been tortured by human traffickers and thrown in jail by soldiers. After he was released, the International Organization for Migration flew him home.
After I returned, many people made fun of me because I didn't make it. But I felt relieved. I'm back home now and no one is oppressing me. I live well. Back there, we had problems with the military and we were discriminated against.
là-bas, je suis soumis à des problèmes militaires, à des problèmes, donc à toute discrimination.
A total of 300 people work for the EU-funded project, which was launched by IOM and a local NGO. The most important aspect, its members are made up of equal numbers of returnees and local residents. This is to ensure that everyone benefits from the project and there is no resentment within the community.
It's already hard enough for the kids who come back. We need to motivate them, but they also need to accept the others.
Women also play a very important role in the reintegration of the returnees. Our own children are not among the returnees, but these young people could easily be our children. That's why we take care of them. My little brother, for example, also tried to leave, but criminals caught and castrated him. He has nothing left. Now he's like a woman. The boys here have all had similar experiences. That's why we need to support them. We are like mothers to them.
Mama.
Soon the first chickens and eggs will be sold. With 300 participants, their first payment will probably be low, but at least they will gain some perspective. Many young people in Guinea have lost hope. Well-paid jobs are difficult to find, and there aren't enough career opportunities. For many, escaping to Europe seems like the only way out. To counteract this, the Employment Office and the IOM have interviewed young people in Conakry.
As a result of the interviews, we can determine who is most likely to leave the country illegally. We then selected them for a total of 21 projects, such as the chicken farm, and support them.
Other young people will hopefully be spared to Lel's terrible experience. He now lives with relatives in Conakry and is studying political science. For now, at least, he has given up his dream of traveling to Europe.
All of the returnees and all of my friends warned me before I left, but I had to experience it for myself to believe it. All I would say to my friends now is to not even try it. It destroys you. Even if you do survive, you either feel so ashamed that you didn't make it or you come back crazy.
But whether or not he can really stop his friends from leaving remains uncertain. The IOM estimates that around 15,000 Guineans are still waiting to be repatriated.
Like I said earlier on, sometimes the grass is not greener on the other side. We have a similar story of returnees being helped in Niger.
These young men are travelling through Niger, but they're not taking the usual route north. Exhausted, broke and disappointed at having failed to get to Europe, they're now heading south, trying to get home. Workers at the UN Transit Centre check their stuff for sharp objects. It doesn't take long. No one has much with them. Here they have somewhere to stop, something to eat and somewhere to sleep. Many arriving here have had an awful time. Some have even been held in prison on the way.
They hit us and treated us badly. We were only given food once a day. It was hard.
Here they can recover from their failed attempt to reach Europe and get ready to return home. Officials from the International Organization for Migration collect data about where the migrants have come from and which route they took. Many have lost everything on the way. Da Ouda Mama Oudu says many people still want to go to Europe, but an increasing number are failing to get there.
There have been more migrants returning recently. The problem has been increasing over the last 3 months. Just today we have taken in 53 migrants here.
Some run out of money before they even make it to the Mediterranean and are forced to head back. Abu Kamara left Liberia 2 months ago. He's pleased to have got out with his life. Now he just wants to go home.
The thing I saw on the road is very difficult. For now, there is no one. We make this adventure, then you succeed. Either you die after Agadez to go in Tripoli, either you die on the road or you come back.
It can take weeks to get the documents they need to go home. They stay in the centre to avoid people smugglers who might pressure them to try their luck again.
Bonjour.
Sometimes migrants ask the impossible of staff here.
Bien, tout le monde? Okay.
Monica Shiriak has only been here a few weeks. She's approached by a deaf-mute man asking for help to find a job for his friend who's got to Italy. She can't possibly do anything. Well, most of them went to Europe illegally, on the boats, through the desert, with smugglers. We can't really say to people here, go on, try it. That's why we also try to reintegrate the people who come here, so they don't attempt the journey again. But can they persuade the would-be migrants to stay at home? Many still want to go to Europe, despite having failed this time around.
If I want to go to Europe, I want to go the legal process. I don't want to go on legal process, but I want to use the legal process to go to Europe.
Few want to try the smugglers' routes again. For now, they hope they can find jobs and that their families will accept them when they get home.
Our next story is on Makayambo Ngano from the Democratic Republic of Congo, a journalist who had to flee her home all the way to Germany.
You know, sometimes when you decide that I'm leaving Kinshasa to go to that place, when you decide so, and then you can just take care of everything. But when you flee, it's just like you living. It's just like you leave a part of your body. I am Makayambo Ngano. I came from Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. I'm a journalist. To be a journalist in Congo, by the time I was there in Congo, it was not so easy. First, about our security. You know, you just expose yourself. Everyone knows who you are, whatever, where you stay. And when something happening, really, they are beyond you. There where I was working, did have some problem, political problem. Then I just flee from Kinshasa to South Africa because my husband was already that side as a refugee. To my own country, I was just feeling at home. But when I went to South Africa, it's just like, yeah, I need to do so. I need to be careful because I'm not in my own country. We saw people in our own eyes to be killed. We were attacked ourselves.
We left South Africa for the very same reason again.
Political problem.
For very same reason again. See, what we have fled from our country had followed us in South Africa. When you don't feel safe, you are threatened, you are obliged to leave, and we left. We left.
Since March of this year, we have been granted a status of refugee here in Germany, and then they even told us that we're giving you that status because you were already refugee. You know. It was really stressful, and then we need to stay in the bad conditions also, if I can say so, with some people you don't know, you sleeping in the same place, and then you need to do so, and you must wait for the food they're giving you. If you miss that food, you miss. What I like it here, is that integration. The integration really, I did like it. They integrate you, you must just learn the language, and besides, they're just teaching you how is the country, how the country is ruled. With the culture, about everything. Really, that integration is what I like it. And it's just like they make you also to feel at home if you want to be integrated. Because there is others, really, they say, what is that? I don't want to, you know.
We'll take a break and then we'll be right back. Welcome back. Now we'll take a look at the lives of other migrants living in Germany as well.
Every time when you move the side to side, remember I came from Congo, I was in South Africa, I was in Sweden, today I'm here in Germany. As a Christian, whatever you go, you must search where is God. We're always going to find out our own people. That's why really I can see I'm just feeling at home when I'm going to the church. I am Makaya Bungano. I came from Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. I'm a journalist. One day I meet a lady called Regina. We met because they are the one who are just like a volunteer, giving us some course of a Dutch course by the camp where we were. That lady was just asking us if we were Christian, and then she was saying that if we want to visit a church.
So your church is a bit different to the, let's say, traditional German church. How would you say it's different, in what way?
Yes, we, as you see, we focus on worship. We sing a lot. We like to invite people, refugees, as well as other people around. We invite young people and children as well to come to our church.
It's like I don't understand everything, but I understand what is going on. And especially, I found the church was just talking about the language I want to learn. And it just making me to be happy and then to just come.
Patience is a very positive person, easy to communicate with her, so all of my friends easily came in touch with her, and so it's really a blessing for my family as well.
She's like my family. My family, they are not here. I'm here with my husband, you know. Every Sunday when I'm here, when I have time, I also go to the Congolese church.
We are very, very hot. That's why she come here.
What?
Dance, because we dance, we move.
Yeah. Is it like a church in Congo? Is it?
Of course, yes.
Yes.
For me, it's just really, it just puts me in a good mood. And to see my own people, they're preaching in English, they're singing, they're preaching in French, they're singing in French, Lingala, they're singing in Kikongo, English also, even in Germany.
Would you say you found, like, you feel at home now in Germany? Like
I'm feeling at home.
Home away from home.
And, really, I also integrate because I'm an open person. I talk to anybody. Mm-hmm. I don't mind who you are.
But as long as he's a person, a human being, we just talk.
Thank you for joining us on Africa on the Move. See you next week.
The first thing is for us to get the education. We need to understand what child sexual abuse is about. Firstly, child sexual abuse is any sexual activity between an adult and a child. And when I talk about a child is someone between the age of 0 and 18. So that's when you have sexual activity with a child who is between the age of 0 and 18. So the first step that we should know about child sexual abuse is education. We need to understand what child sexual abuse is. Child sexual abuse can happen to anyone, anywhere, and anytime. Then the second one is to teach children what we call body boundary, body safety, and space boundary as well. What do I mean by that? You should be able to educate children that their body belongs to them. Apart from God, their body belongs to them. They should be able to identify every part of their body and label them correctly. We should teach children the correct names of their body parts. Personally, I believe there is nothing like good touch or bad touch or private part and public part for children. I believe that every part of a child is private. From the strand of their hair to the sole of their feet is private. They don't have the right to give consent. So we consider every body part of a child as private. So parents, caregivers, anyone who handles children should be able to understand this, that there is nothing called public or private parts. I mean, every part of the child is private. Then we have to be careful. We need to teach children what we call trusted adults. Trusted adults are adults who children can easily run up to or go and speak with about their concerns. When something happens, who can your child run to go and meet? Is it their father? Is it their mother? Is it anyone around them who is an adult and you consider them safe with children? We call them trusted adults. So I said that children should be able to mention and label their body parts correctly. The private part that we generally know for girls is the vagina, their vulva, their breast, their lap, their buttocks. We should not call buttocks bum. It is not bum, it is buttocks, because we have identified that some of these predators actually use this against the children. If a child cannot correctly say the appropriate name of their private body parts, predators, they use this against them, and the children may not be able to communicate well what exactly is wrong with them. If you take, for instance, when you call penis cucumber, you tell a child that penis is cucumber and somebody is touching their penis, the child may not easily relate whatever happens well to their caregiver. They could say, "You touch my cucumber, you touch another." So in fact, it doesn't even give children the self-esteem to own their body. We call something body owning. When you understand the appropriate names of your sexual parts, then you can own it. Because we realize that some sexual predators as well use this against children. When they see that children don't know how to take care of themselves or own their body, their self-esteem is low, sexual predators use this against the children. Then we usually advise caregivers not to always leave children carelessly. We should have people who should be responsible to children at any point in time. So please never leave your children or your child unattended to. Whenever you're not there, ensure that there's someone who is responsible for your child. Then do something we call family mapping. Family mapping simply means that you should be able to identify who is around your child at any point in time, even if you're not there. You should be able to say, okay, so person has contact with my child. Then you should be able to map your environment out, who are the ones who are likely to have contact or connection with my child? Your house help, the steward, the gatesman, the driver, your family and friends, people who come in and out of the house. So at the end of the day, when something happens, you'll be able to know who was with the child at a particular time. Teach children how to take care of themselves as well and how to say no. A lot of children don't know how to say no because we teach them to be very respectful to strangers. We're not saying that they shouldn't be respectful to strangers, but let them know that when they are not comfortable with a touch, they should be able to express themselves and say, no, don't touch me there. No, I will tell my dad. No, I will tell my mom. And that is why it is very important for parents to establish a very good relationship with children, because we realize that a lot of parents and caregivers, they don't have very good rapport and relationship with children. So when things like that happen, children don't even have the opportunity to convey or express whatever that is happening to them to their child, to their handlers or their caregivers. Again, we realize that a lot of caregivers and parents don't trust children. I will tell you particularly that research has it that 95% of abuse that children report is actually real. So when a child tells you this is what is happening to me, there is a 95% chance that it is real. So we should be patient enough to listen to children when they want to say something, because we realize that children oftentimes don't talk, but when they talk, parents shut them down. And once parents shut them down, they don't say anything thereafter. So most times the abuse continues. Another thing we should know is that research has it that hardly will you find a stranger molesting a child. Most of the cases that we have treated in the past years has made us realize that mostly family and friends are the ones who get involved in the molestation of children. And who are we talking about? We're talking about people who are closely related to us, our friends, our families and friends of the family, people who have easy access to the house, people who we are vulnerable to, people who know our weaknesses, people who knows when we come in and when we go out, when we are not available, people who know that we don't have a good relationship with our children, people who know that our children are lacking in emotional health. They know that you don't have time for them, so they try to figure out ways to find those time for them so that they can use that to penetrate. We call it grooming. So we understand that people who live around us are the ones who actually sexually abuse our children. And we notice that it takes, they don't just stop once, they continue. Once they start, it is always very difficult for them to stop.
A lot of the jobs that exist today will not exist in the next 10 years.
When I see people today shouting, we're not too young to run, we are ready to run. Ready to run to where?
The people of excellence are, to a certain extent, being held ransom by idiots and bandits.
Once you are in government, you believe everything you do is right. And once you are in opposition, everything the government does is wrong.
And so it's time for us to take over power.
Many thanks for joining us on News on the Hour on Plus TV Africa. Here are the stories making the headlines, and I am Amaka Okoye. President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday met with the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, at the opening of the Russia-Africa Summit. Bashir Ahmad, personal assistant to President Buhari on new media, revealed this via his Twitter handle. Buhari met with President Putin to further strengthen relations in security, trade and investment, and building partnership that will enhance Nigeria's huge gas potential following Russia's remarkable success in gas exportation. Details in a subsequent bulletin. Now, a judge with the Federal High Court, Akure, Ondo State, Justice Abdul Dogo, has been kidnapped by unknown gunmen. Justice Dogo was abducted on Tuesday by unknown gunmen while he was returning to Akure from Abuja. A lawyer on condition of anonymity confirmed this development. Details will follow later. Now, an accident involving several vehicles has impeded flow of traffic on Otedola Bridge in Lagos. According to the Lagos State Traffic Management Agency, the accident is said to involve up to 10 vehicles, including a containerized truck, a pickup, and a high-capacity bus, as well as several cars. The accident affected motorists heading towards Bega. LASTMA advised motorists to use the CMD road from Secretariat towards Bega, pending further updates on the road. As of the time of filing this report, casualties were still trapped in the pickup, and emergency services were said to be on the ground. Moving on, Nigeria Security and Civil Service Defense in Kaduna State on Tuesday raided 2 rehabilitation homes in Zaria local government area of the state. At the center known as Malam Aliyu May Adakun Salatu Fatil in Zaria, 11 inmates, mostly men and children, were rescued. The 2 centers are located at Limanchi Corner and Mamara, all in Zaria local government area of the state. Unlike previously discovered centers in Rigasa, the Zaria Rehabilitation Center had no female inmate. Deputy Commandant of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, Kaduna State Command, Nega Aloysius Onyema, who paraded the owners of the centers, also disclosed that 3 inmates died as a result of the unbearable conditions at the center. The raid on illegal rehabilitation homes started weeks after police rescued 300 inmates from a center in the same Rigasa area of the Kaduna State. All the inmates at the Zaria Center were in leg and hand chains. The NSCDC boss said the 11 inmates were rescued following an intelligence report gathered by the Corps. He added that the inmates are between the ages of 11 and 40 years old. Now, Jafaru Ahmed, Controller General of the Nigerian Correctional Service, says he has set up a panel to probe Ikoyi prisons, now known as Ikoyi Custodial Center, following an investigation by Fishayo Shoyombo, an undercover journalist. Shoyombo spent 8 days as an inmate in Ikoyi prison to track corruption in Nigeria's criminal justice system. He documented experiences on drug abuse, sodomy, bribery, pimping, and cash and carry operations at the facility. But responded in a statement on Tuesday night, Ahmed said those found guilty of the allegations would be punished. Ahmed said the service has no intention of arresting or harassing the journalist over his findings. The Nigeria Customs Service says it has arrested a syndicate of 15 people who allegedly rebag foreign rice as local rice for sale to unsuspecting consumers. The Controller of Customs in Adamawa and Taraba States Command, Kamadin Olomo, disclosed this on Tuesday when he led journalists to the scene of the crime at a warehouse in Yola, the Adamawa state capital. According to him, the suspects were found with 900 bags of rice with duty paid value of 14.5 million naira. Olomo explained that operatives of the command busted the warehouse in conjunction with others from the Federal Operations Unit and Strike Force as part of efforts towards sustaining the fight against smuggling in the country. He revealed that 15 people, including the manager and laborers at the warehouse, were rounded up by the security operatives while carrying out their nefarious act. Still on national matter, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, has promised to lead a constitutional change that will give women better placement in the society. He spoke on Tuesday in Lagos at the 19th National Women's Conference of the Committee of Wives of Lagos State Officials. Gbajabiamila said education is the first step to empowering women and that he will champion the amendment to those constitutional impediments. The Speaker said it was time the Constitution is amended to accommodate whatever percentage is needed without discrimination against any sex. The wife of the President, Aisha Buhari, who was represented at the event by the wife of the Vice President, Dolapo Oshibajo, said women needed to be empowered to contribute to nation building. The chairperson of the group, Dr. Ibijoke Sonwolu, said women must strategically position themselves to take full benefit of government programs, adding that in the 21st century, women must embrace new ideas to remain relevant. Now, the Nigerian Bar Association has rejected the impeachment of the Deputy Governor of Kogi State, Simon Achuba, by the State House of Assembly. Their umbrella body of lawyers said the impeachment was illegal and unconstitutional because it was against the findings of the probe panel raised by the State Chief Judge, which cleared Achuba of wrongdoings. The NBA, in a statement by its National Publicity Secretary, Kunle Edun, said it viewed the events with serious concerns and urged all parties to exercise great caution. And now with me in the studio is legal practitioner Liberos Oshoma, and he gives us legal interpretation of the development in Kogi State. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Okay, so very quickly, I'm sure you followed the event that happened. First of all, does the law recognize the impeachment of Simon Achuba?
No, not at all. In as far as that process is concerned, in the eye of the law, Simon Achuba is still the deputy governor, and so there was no vacuum in the office for Edward to have been sworn in, and so whether the chief judge of the state sworn in, another person or not is immaterial, and as far as the law is concerned. And if you look at the section 188 of the 1999 Constitution that spells out the steps that must be followed, to impeach a governor, a deputy governor, because of time, specifically, if you go to subsection 8 of that section 188, it says where the panel reports, that's a panel set up to investigate the allegations raised by the assembly. Where the panel report to the House of Assembly that the allegation has not been proved, no further proceedings shall be taken in respect of that matter. Shall be the operative word here, compulsion. Shall be taken, no further proceedings. You can't go beyond that. And so the moment the panel led by a learned senior advocate heard that the allegations against the deputy governor were not proved by those who were alleging, and that ordinarily ended the matter. So every other steps taken subsequently became a nullity in the eye of our law. And so whether the chief judge of the state, was prompted or was threatened to swear in somebody else as deputy governor, it's really immaterial here, because you cannot, you can't have two deputy governors in a state. And I say this advisedly because it is also very common for us here to say, let Simon Achuba go to court. It's not a question of going to court here. The issue is, has an illegality, an abuse of our constitution, be committed here? Yes, it has been. And so why do you now ask the man who has been wronged, who has been stolen from in broad daylight, instead of the state protecting him now? It's like a policeman standing right in traffic and then aiding an alleged criminal to steal your phone. And then he says, instead of chasing the criminal, arresting him, he says, go to courts. That's what basically is playing out here. And unfortunately, the Supreme Court, the same court, had opportunity of interpreting or having a bite on this same section 180, if you remember the Ladoja's case and the Peter Obi's case. And the court in that, because before then, it was the popular notion among lawyers that once a governor, a deputy governor is impeached by provisions of subsection 10 of section 188, that process cannot be challenged in courts. But because by challenging it would mean that interfering in the powers of the legislature. And the court in its wisdom said no, that you must comply strictly with the provisions of subsection 1 to 9 before you can invoke subsection 10. So in this case, the interpretation is that you must strictly comply with the provisions as laid down. And so when there is non-compliance, it amounts to a nullity. And so we shouldn't encourage illegality by saying that the man should go to court. I also expect, lastly, that the Attorney General should do a strongly worded legal opinion to the state governor to advise him, if let's assume that he doesn't know, to advise him. That's how Attorney General should behave and protect the law. It is his responsibility. I mean, the Attorney General of the Federation. Yeah. It is his responsibility to protect the law of the land, not just as a legal advisor to the executive, but also as the number one chief law officer of the state. So it's a slap, actually, on Attorney General, sitting Attorney General, when something like this happens and, he maintains a conspiracy of silence.
Having said that, you've given us the interpretation of the law there. Now, does the law, again, recognize the newly sworn in deputy or not? I
already said it, that since there is no vacuum, you can't have You can't, yes, he's there on his own, whether sworn in or not, because there is no vacuum. In as far as the law is concerned, there is no vacuum. If you remember, in Peter Obi's case, while the matter was in court, he was purportedly impeached, and so he approached the courts. And the court said, maintain status quo. While the matter was in court, election was conducted to fill the governorship seats that produced Andy Uba, then, if you remember. And the court said, the Supreme Court said there was no vacuum. And so there was no vacuum for you to fill. So in the same interpretation, in the same vein, in the case of Kogi, the deputy governorship of Kogi, borrowing the words of, the Supreme Court, there was no vacuum to be filled for the new deputy governor, yes, to be sworn in. And so in the eye, that's why I said in the eye of the law, the deputy governor has not been impeached, because you just making a pronouncement that you hereby impeach him under what allegation? Because the beauty of the law is that that provision of Section 180 is the fact that impeachment being a very important aspect of governance, it did not, the drafters of the Constitution did not allow it to solely, be domiciled in the hands of the legislature. You have to also invite another arm of government, which in this turn is the judiciary, to say, yes, you levy allegation against somebody, let the judiciary perform a quasi-judicial function here by setting up a panel to conduct the investigation into the allegation you have levied. And so if they now conduct those allegations and say, look, these allegations have not been proved, then you can't go further. You remember also in the case of Al-Makura in Nasarawa State, it was the same thing. The House of Assembly left, some members of the House of Assembly left the chambers, went to sit down in a hotel, in spite of the Supreme Court judgment in Peter Obi and that of Court of Appeal in Ladoja, that the business of the Assembly must be conducted in the place designated for it. They met in a hotel and now served impeachment notice on the governor and asked the CJN to constitute a panel. The Chief Judge of the state. The Chief Judge did consider the panel, and at the end of the day, the panel said allegations have not been proved, and so that ended the matter. And so that's what ordinarily should happen here, and we shouldn't allow, the emperors that we are breeding, that we call governors now, to sow with impunity, violate our constitution, and then look the other way. Because if you allow him to do what he has done today now, who knows, we're setting a very bad precedent. Some persons can just sit down and say we have impeached a sitting governor. Or some members of the National Assembly can just sit down and say, they are levying allegation against the president, even though the CJN will set up a panel and say those allegations are not been proved, and then two-thirds majority just sit down by a voice vote and say he stands impeached. And that day, we'll know the bad precedent we have set for ourselves by all keeping quiet.
So it's better to nip it at the bud. Having said that, our final question is, what are the implications? Because we know that for the states now, in 2 weeks, in some weeks, they're supposed to have elections. What are the implications with all of this new development?
The legal implication for me is they are very glaring and very dangerous, because what the implication here now is that for the opposition party, most especially, is that elections are going to be very, bloody. If you can, with impunity violate the constitution like this, it means that you will do anything to retain that seat. And that's where also our security operatives also should rise up to the plate. And that's why the federal government that's sworn to protect lives and property should not also allow this to just slip by, because when people violate laws with impunity like this and then you keep quiet, what they are indirectly telling you is that, look, we will do anything to retain the seat we have. So politics shouldn't be a do or die affair. There should be rules, and the rules should be upheld, and then everybody should learn to play by the books.
Thank you very much, Liberal Soshoma, there for your thoughts.
My pleasure.
Moving on, 3 Nigerians are among other foreign nationals who on Tuesday suffered from fresh xenophobic attacks on foreigners in different locations of Witbank, Mpumalanga Province, South Africa, and the Nigeria community has confirmed that. The national spokesperson of the Nigeria Union South Africa, Odefa, said that the attacks started in the early hours of the morning. Tuesday's attacks are coming on the heels of efforts by President Muhammadu Buhari and Cyril Ramaphosa to ensure they found amicable and lasting solution to the xenophobia in the country. Such peace efforts saw Buhari visiting Ramaphosa and holding a town hall meeting with the Nigerian community. Groups made up of community members and taxi drivers went to different areas in Witbank, attacking foreign-owned businesses and foreigners. Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka, in an exclusive interview with Plus TV Africa, narrates his encounter in South Africa.
There's some kind of collective psychological warp, I think, in the makeup of today's South African. That warp has got to be addressed. We've got to speak very frankly about that. It's something which I have personally experienced, by the way. And if I have, on more than one occasion, you can imagine what the ordinary people have also experienced. I was nearly sent back from the airport. In fact, it happened twice. And the hostility by even these young immigration officers. In fact, as it happened on that flight, the Nigerian ambassador or high commissioner was, and he even intervened. And it had to do with the immigration officer, a young woman misreading the date on the passport, and insisted I had to go with them to the immigration office. And walking along the way, because she kept looking, I was watching her, she kept looking at it, this. I saw the moment when she realized she'd made a mistake. And then she flipped over the passport and saw that it was Nigeria anyway, and continued her march. We went up to the office. There was also a friend of mine, a lawyer, who went with us. It was quite a scene. Went to the office. I pointed out what I felt was the error, and fortunately some other senior immigration officers recognized me and came and saw what it was. And they said, no, this girl, her attitude, just because of that passport, it was so hard, it was unbelievable. If I reached the point, as we were leaving, I said to her, you see, I said, I noticed when you saw that that you'd made a mistake. I said, why did you bring us? You needed to see how she flared up. And I said, I'm going to report you. You said, yes, this is mine. Yeah, take a look. I was looking at the so I was, pacified by the senior people and the ambassador who were around to sleep. This happened to me there. It's not the first time. There was another time I was kept there. I was coming from the States at that time, and there was, I didn't have a visa. I was an emergency thing. I was invited for a lecture. In fact, it was in connection with Mandela's celebration. And I was assured there would be a visa waiting for me at the airport. I don't go anywhere I'm not invited. I was assured there'd be a visa there. Anyway, cut a long story short, it took Gracia Machel. I was already on my way out. It took Gracia Machel to intervene. I said, do you know what you're doing? You know who this is? And she raised hell with them. I spent about close to 9 hours at the airport. I just said, I am leaving here. And after that episode, I did not go to South Africa. I turned down invitations, over 9 invitations in 2 years. I said, I'm never stepping into your country again. I went, give the lectures. I said, I'll do anything for Mandela, his memory, and so on. For me, he's my avatar. I said, dude, but at the end of the lectures, I took my luggage to the lectures. Straight from the lectures, I went to the airport and left. I said, I'm dusting the feet of this country.
The Nobel laureates urges young South Africans not to allow the apartheid experience to hinder their relations with other African nationals.
I've spoken to other South Africans, including some young people who do straightforward business, contributing to that society. And the treatment they receive, there's something very serious. That's why I use the word warp. Something has happened, I think, maybe as a result of the apartheid experience, is suspicion that other people are coming to treat them like, the Boers treated them, a kind of victim complex, maybe also aspects of Frantz Fanon's theory about how victims tend to victimize other victims even much more than their own oppressors. It's something which, let's speak frankly, South Africans have to deal with. One is not denying that Nigerians themselves can be a handful outside. We know that. But then there are other nations also who are more than a handful in other societies.
And we'll take a quick break now, and up next is our business news. And in business, the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria has so far recovered a total of 759 billion naira from debtors. A report released by the Central Bank of Nigeria also revealed that some of the debtors also forfeited their properties worth 263.73 billion naira. AMCON, which was established by the federal government in 2010 to buy bad debts from banks and ensure stability in the financial sector, has made cash recoveries of 89.97 billion naira for the 2018 financial year from asset sales and credit repayments. This has brought total recoveries from inception to 759.05 billion naira as of December 2018. The Apex Bank said the carrying value of AMCON's liabilities increased from 4.53 trillion naira at the end of June 2018 to 5.43 trillion naira as of December 2018, arising from the corporation's investments of 898.45 billion naira in Polaris Bank Limited. According to the CBN, the carrying value of AMCON assets and net of impairment increased from 731.55 billion naira at the end of June 2018 to 769.87 billion naira as of December 2018. Still on business, crude oil prices declined on Wednesday at below $60 per barrel, with an expected rise in U.S. crude stocks. Brent crude futures were down 25 cents to $59.45 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures for December delivery dropped by 32 cents to $54.16 per barrel. The November contract expired on Tuesday at $54.16. Meanwhile, U.S. crude stock rose by 4.5 million barrels to 437 million barrels in the week ended October 18, compared with analysts' expectation for a gain of 2.2 million barrels. This is according to data in the American Petroleum Institute. And still ahead at Plus TV Africa News is a roundup on entertainment and sports news. We will be back in a moment.
First point of accountability is asking questions.
Hello and welcome to Plus Sports and Plus TV Africa. I am Udoka Njoko.
Hi everyone, welcome to Plus Training.
You cannot continue to recycle poverty while you're spending a lot of money on unproductive ventures.
The government has to feel the impact.
Honorable Commissioner, welcome to the show. And an entertainment actress, Lori Loughlin, is facing a new bribery charge after federal prosecutors brought additional charges against 18 wealthy parents, university athletic officials, and other accused of participating in the latest U.S. college admissions scam ever uncovered. The Full House star is one of 11 parents hit with new charges. Federal prosecutors in Boston say Loughlin conspired to bribe University of Southern California employees to secure the admission of her two daughters. She and her husband, fashion designer Mossimo Giannulli, were previously charged with conspiring to commit honest services fraud and money laundering. They now face a new charge of conspiring to commit federal programs bribery. The new charges contained in the revised indictment filed against them and the other parents add to the potential maximum prison terms they each face if convicted. In Loughlin's case, it jumped from 40 to 45 years. All 11 parents have previously pleaded not guilty. And that's it on entertainment and the very best in sports coming up right after this break. And in sports, Rangers have urged fans to going to Europa League group game with Porto not to sing songs or behave in a way that UEFA could deem unacceptable. Twice this season, the club have had to close a section of Ibrox for European games after sectarian chanting, and the club opted not to take tickets for the game with Young Boys in Switzerland. They have, however, taken an allocation for Thursday's game in Portugal. A club statement urged fans to portray Rangers in the best possible light. It added, and I quote, "UEFA has already imposed a sanction on Rangers, so we must be vigilant and give them no cause to take further and more serious actions against us." Rangers said the game, the Scottish Premiership side third in the group, is a chance for fans to support the club in the correct way. And that's it on sports. And that's our news roundup of events at this hour. For more news updates, please follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa. We will be back later with more stories making the headlines. Please do join us again. I am Amaka Okoye, and do have yourselves a great day.
It gets better, ordered another round. It gets better, ordered another round. It gets
I'm sure, as you can imagine, I get many. On a daily basis, I haven't shared this with anyone, but I reckon I get about like 100 people asking for help. A day. That's a fact. I can prove that. You know, so rather than, going through all my messages, my letters, my emails, my DMs, I decided that, I think it's important as a young person to make sure that I'm making a difference. And it would be almost, I could have started a record label and been used those resources to sign artists, but education for me is so powerful. I would not be here, fact, whether or not, anyone can argue that I would not be here if not for my education.
Nowhere, baby, we no tire. And baby, for the line we
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshuke.
Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Events is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely, no question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, I know.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild. This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity.
No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event
on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
This is Plus TV Africa, where we bring you the biggest entertainment stories. Welcome to Tea Time. Of course, we also bring you interesting personalities in the world of entertainment. My name is Elsie Godwin, and I'm here with Ewa Oritu and Ifeoluwa Oshonkeye.
What's good?
I'm all right. I feel good, I think.
I feel good too.
I feel good too. That didn't sound like you felt
After
good.
last night.
What? Okay. Moving on, Princess Shingo 1 month-old engagement has crashed over fraud and infidelity. So, yeah, I think her husband was arrested. I say husband, fiancé, ex-fiancé was arrested. And I like how she came out to put her disclaimer, single, straight up. Let's not get it twisted. But
okay. Well, I wanted to ask, I wish she was here, let me ask her the question. Did she know what he was doing before getting engaged with him, you know? Or is there a cover-up business I probably lied to her too about? We don't know. I see a lot of people judging her that you left him because they finally caught him. What if there's a cover-up business that he told her, okay, this is what I do for a living, and she does not even know that he's involved in fraud, you know? It's a two-way thing. People should not just look at one side and start judging her from that other side. She's probably heartbroken too that, oh, this is what you do and I don't know about it, you know? And it's not easy to deal with heartbreaks. So I just hope that she moves on. And I think she has a case of depression one time like that, you know?
She has mental health
and this
issues.
happening to her again. I just hope she has enough strength to move on from it, because if she goes through her phone and a lot of things people are saying online is enough for her to, you know, relapse again. So I just hope she gets better and move on.
I think I'd just like to focus on the issue of fraud and our brothers in the diaspora, because basically these days now we see a lot of, should I call them slay kings now? All over social media, Instagram, posting pictures of lavish lifestyle, luxurious lifestyle, and then they're the motivational speakers. Like, I'm going to bring Monfa into this because it was alleged yesterday, but EFCC has released a statement that they actually apprehended Monfa, and he had 5 wristwatches worth 20 million naira. Now, I was having a conversation with someone over the weekend, and I was telling the person that, look, someone like Monfa is legit. That's the only reason why I'll be flossing all these things. Do you understand? That was my thoughts. Do you understand? Like, it's a constant bureau de change. I'm like, okay, if I go to Dubai and I have a lot of dollars on me and I really want to change it to their currency, I think the person I'll look for is Monfa. Do you get what I mean?
Monfa.
Whatever. Monfa, potato. So, I'm saying now, it makes it look like everybody out there putting in the work, you're making everybody look bad. So we're not all scammers. I just think that's the word out there, because back to Shingo, whatever our fiancé was doing, whatever, whether
I don't
she
even
would,
think he was a Nigerian.
no, then she even moved to his New York apartment, or New Jersey, sorry.
New Jersey.
Yeah, New Jersey.
Something.
She knew. Okay, so she even moved to his New Jersey apartment, which she left, and all of that. So whether or not she knew about it, now the question is, in a relationship, I think there should be 100% honesty.
Okay.
And you have to be open. Is it that you take me for who I am and be my ride or die? Or I keep lying to you, and then when stuff like this happens, this is what you get. So people will say, oh, you're not loyal because they caught him now, you're leaving. It's not about being loyal. The question is, what if he was not open from the onset? What if he was not straight up with her? Do you understand? I don't expect her to stay in that. Do you understand? So if you are getting into a relationship, I will tell you all my vices. Do you understand? I'll let you know, this is what I do, this is what I do, this is what I do. So at the end of the day, if you now start having issues with it, I have the right to tell you, oi, shut up. Do you understand? Because I already told you about it. But if I didn't tell you, then she has every right to.
Well, you know, on this table, you've also talked about how some ladies don't even care about what their man do for a living.
It's greedy women.
You know, so it's it's just another angle. I'm not saying she did not care. It's possible that she just wasn't bothered about prying into what he was doing. But
No,
when
for
they
you
got
to get
into an
engaged,
engagement,
with
right,
somebody, you should be
he's supposed to
bothered
be
about.
very open, and she's supposed to also know what she's getting into, because people with that kind of lifestyle, they kind of like to get married or have people that are very close to them around that they can see as their ride or die. So if anything happens, they know that, okay, she will fix this, she can sort this out. I'm just saying, right?
I would also like to
I just
look
hope
at it.
that she gets better, like you said, because of her.
I also like to
state
look
of,
at it from the
mental health.
business point of view, because even if she knew what it was doing, or even if she's aware of the whole fraudulent activity, now she has a lot of brands associated to her, right?
Does she?
She's a public figure, yeah, she
she's a
does.
public figure. She has a lot of brands affiliated to her. She's an actress and all of that. So she doesn't want to be caught up in all that mess. It's like what happened with Toyin, what was her first name? Toyin Aimaku. But because of the Egbegbe stuff, she changed it to Abraham. Do you understand? Because she doesn't want to be associated with that personality. So that's the business side of looking at this now. Now you have an ongoing case and all of that. So I have to disassociate myself. You don't know even if they're still communicating, but just know that, okay, look, I have a brand I need to protect, and you need to, and you even be the one to
Now
tell
that
you.
you're talking about dissociating from fraud and all that, it brings me to Nkechi Blessing. I don't know if you saw it. Nkechi, she posted Mofa's post on her picture on her Instagram and was saying something like trying to motivate him and say this too shall pass.
See, on that, to be honest, I feel like, you know, people see different sides of people. There are terrible people that have people that they show their good sides. Do you get? Let's take the case of R. Kelly and the woman that came to help him. She kept on saying that, I know R. Kelly as a friend and not a child molester. Do you get? So if she's putting it out there, maybe, I don't know the relationship they have, you get, and it's still allegedly, I mean, it can go to court and it will come out innocent. We never can tell. Do you get?
No, he has admitted to 2 cases already. Out of 4 charges, he's admitted to 2.
And I think EFCC should tell us what exactly is admitting to and what exactly the problem is. I mean, when FBI came out with their story, they gave us full details. Do you get? They didn't just come out and say, okay, well, we've arrested him, but it's still ongoing.
But they said he has snitched, though.
Whatever the case is, I don't think, I feel like...
Because when Naira Marley's case was out, that was the same thing that was put out in their press release, that he has admitted to these crimes. And when he got caught, it was another story that we're hearing, that he's saying he's totally innocent of everything he's accused of.
So you think it's I mean, looking at Nkechi Blessing, I'm looking at the reactions that I saw, and it's a case of, I mean, you're a public figure, people look at you a certain type of way, and we've had cases over the weeks or even months of these fraudulent activities, and some people trying to support them. Even when Mali was at the court, was it yesterday? You saw comments of people say, leave our guy, leave him alone, and it seems like we are beginning to see this lifestyle as the way of life of people. And
is he a Yahoo boy?
That's the question.
Well, we don't know if
that's
he's
the
a Yahoo
question.
boy, but there is an ongoing case. So I don't think it is right for anyone, whether you are a celebrity or not, even if you just have 1,000 followers or even 100, to come out to say they should leave him alone. He's already in court. At least what we're fighting for was for them to give him his human rights and not hold him.
Did Nkechi say they should leave Mofa?
No, I was relating that back to it. But when you come out openly to come and start supporting things that look like fraud, then it just bothers on where our value is going to. That's just how I feel about it.
I understand where you're coming from, but I just want to see it from their own point of view, that this is my friend. Do you get? I don't want to be caught up in this kind of... No, well, I don't know. For example, like, I don't. When Naira Marley's case was on, I know DSF was like really supporting him and rooting for him. And when people started coming for her that you're supporting fraud, and she's like, you guys should hold up. When I was in a serious mess, the only person that stood by me was Naira Marley. And now that he's in a mess, which is not confirmed that he did.
Federal prosecutors on Tuesday.
Regretting not accepting the thing.
Right.
I don't know. I just feel like this woman has something she's holding on to that gives her that confidence to still plead, to still say I'm not guilty, and she's not taking the plea deal, because if she had taken the plea deal, she'd probably be getting a few months in jail, community service, and paying a fine.
But then, sorry, you know, we mentioned this in a previous episode, and some sources are saying she's actually now considering going to have conversations with them if the plea deal is still on the table.
Well, that's a consideration, but I just feel like she has something concrete, like maybe she has covered the tracks so well that she knows that, okay, no matter how hard you guys try, you have little or nothing on me. Do you understand? So I think she has that. So I don't know what she has up her sleeves, but let's see how this plays out. But it will be very sad if after being a stubborn she-goat, you know, end up going to jail for 45 years.
What did she do? She kill somebody.
But then that's what the law says.
That's what the law says.
That's the 45 years.
You know,
you can't be that stubborn without knowing that, okay, I have a very solid lawyer, and then I've covered my tracks so well that I know that, look, my lawyer has advised me that, look, if you take this plea deal, you're going to go. Meanwhile, you can walk scot-free. Do you understand? So life is all about risk. It's a 50-50 chance. It's either she goes to jail, it's either she walks free, right? So I think she's just being a normal human being and taking risk, because even being right now is a risk. So yeah.
I don't know. I just still feel sorry for her that she have taken the plea deal. I mean, by now she will know what's
Felicity is almost done.
I mean, 2 weeks is
almost done.
Really, 2 weeks is almost over. Probably should have gotten a month, or even, we never can tell, maybe the same 2 weeks.
You know, and Felicity even had a family weekend with her husband and child. They came to visit her, and I heard the inmates are not very happy about that, because they say once you get into that place, it takes like weeks for them to start considering who can come and visit you. And for you, you're just doing 2 weeks, and the next weekend, just like first week, you're already getting visitors and all that. And like, I mean, like, I don't want to say preferential, but that's what it's looking like.
I like the way she rocked her prison outfits.
I mean,
you know, that's how Star do.
That's how Star do, you know.
But let's watch the space and see how this turns out for her.
Yeah.
All right, it's time for a very quick break, but when we come back, we'll either give you more stories or have a studio guest. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Tea Time on Plus TV Africa. Moving on to the next story. So there's been a very interesting story on Bobrisky and the guy who bashed his or her car, and now they. So Daddy Fish tracked down this guy in question and had. I don't know if that's an interview or a conversation, but the guy is saying that he thought he was dealing with a Abi. Said he thought he was dealing with a woman, and if you've not seen the video, please, I know social media can help you on this one, but that we have pictures of the incident, and in the video you could see this man in question actually going into Bobrisky's car, like, you know, when you enter your car and someone is coming from this side to hit you, and I'm asking if you really thought that was a woman. Is that what you were going to do to a woman?
No, but in that same interview with Daddy Freeze, he claims that he never hit her. That, you know, Bobrisky, you know when he smashed Ishmael's phone? Ishmael, in case you're wondering what Ishmael is. So Ishmael, when he went into Ishmael's car, all he did, we didn't see anything. We didn't see any physical assault. And he claimed that he was only dragging his key and his phone with her. Now, that could have been a...
But did you see when he hit her phone? Anyone, when he hit the phone and the phone fell. iPhone 11, that Tonto Bones.
iPhone 11 Pro.
You know, and
the
then...
most expensive of them all.
And Bobrisky he wasn't even trying to record it. He was just trying to take a picture of his plate number.
No. Now, this is another place I'm going to blame social media. Now, Bobrisky is obviously a cloud chaser, which we all know. And I'm unapologetic about this. We all know he's a cloud chaser. Now, this is somebody that he probably wanted to make a video. You don't bash bashed my Range Rover.
Did you
Do you know
watch
this
the
guy actually
Yeah,
admitted that he bashed?
Yeah.
I understand, but I'm just saying that, okay, this is also the negative effect of social media. Now, everybody wants to pull out their phone. If I want to do that, I've been involved in an accident where somebody ran into me, and I needed to take pictures of the accident scene so that we could clear out of the road, so that when the police people come, I'll be able to show them pictures of exactly
How
what
it
happened.
happened.
Now, that's a different case. But Bobrisky was actually trying to point his phone, not to the plate, but
It
to
was
his
to the
face.
plate number.
It was to the plate number.
I watched the video.
I
It was to the
watched
plate
it
number.
It was
It was to the plate number.
I watched it too. From the plate, from the plate, it would have gone. Okay, well, this guy, I consider him a bully. And if he doesn't know when to stop talking, if you actually thought this was a woman, is that the best way to
And you actually hit the woman from behind.
You get, and you said he got to enter and beat her up.
No, we don't know about the beating up. I don't want people.
But did you see how he dived into the car from?
There's no way you would have gone to that car without.
Bobrisky is so dramatic. Somebody was telling me that Bobrisky is so dramatic that even if it was a slap that this guy gave,
would have said
that
it.
Bobrisky will slam his own head on the dashboard and say, "See what he did to my face."
But the guy slapped Bobrisky. Like, let's assume in your story now that you're saying if the guy slapped Bobrisky, Bobrisky will hit his head. But in that story, the man slapped Bobrisky.
Did he?
And you just explain the story now. Now say, let's follow your story. Even if Bobrisky should overreact, did the guy hit him or not? That's the question. And when they get caught, yes, I slapped him. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, but
It's just wrong for you to attack anybody physically.
Is why did Daddy Freeze track this man
I was
down?
going to go there. And then why are they at the phone
Something
store? Are they about to buy another
I think that's the
iPhone?
guy's shop or something. I don't know.
Oh, so he's a phone dealer. It's
I
not
don't
now.
know.
You give iPhone Pro now.
What? I mean, if you're tracking someone down, then we need to understand the aim.
Purpose.
Why is like I'm confused?
It's just for clout.
And then
Daddy Freeze himself is looking like a clout chaser also.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Is it that he did something extraordinary? Are you trying to tell his own side of the story, which is utter rubbish right now? What exactly is the benefit of this interview to your viewers and to your Free the Shippo movement and to everything that you do? Why are you involved in this case?
Especially when you claim to be a man of God, homosexuality is
you're
something
supposed
you should
to be
encourage.
against it.
Do you understand? So I'm not saying that you should not support. I'm not saying that be violent towards homosexuals or whatever. I'm just saying that as a man.
Maybe he went to chase that guy to hope for a better story so he can be on the other side of Bobrisky. I don't know, but
I really do not know what
I feel like Daddy Freeze
about.
should have saved this guy and not put out that video.
No, this guy needs a
statement-
manager, so I'm thinking of managing him. You know,
Who needs
this
a
guy,
manager?
this violence guy.
Okay.
Yeah, so I
What are
think he
you
needs a
managing?
manager now.
What do you want to
because
manage?
now that people are chasing him up and down.
Which
you know.
people?
It's Daddy Freeze that is chasing him.
No, but after that, Daddy Freeze is not going to call him
down.
for interview again.
Nobody.
Okay, let's see now. I'm inviting him on tea time tomorrow anyway.
If anybody's calling him for interview, it's please. It's the police, because what do you mean by you were dealing with a
And then did you
woman?
hear what the guy
That's my
said?
own problem.
The guy said that is malicious damage, yeah? When they said he broke the phone and they said it's a man-to-man fight. So it's malicious damage that when things like that happen during a fight, it's only normal for your phone to be broken and they release the both of them on bond. Do you understand? So the guy was like, Daddy Freeze asked him that, do you really believe that was malicious damage? That because he saw him smash
And he
the
wasn't
phone.
even touching you, or
Do
she
you
wasn't
understand?
touching you.
And then the guy was like, I don't even know he's man-to-man. That he's a man like me. So that was and then it was a very hilarious.
That guy needs to be picked up and interrogated.
Yeah,
Do you
that's
know
what I'm
why?
saying.
Because
Everybody's calling for him to be charged to court.
if truly he thought Bobrisky
Was a woman.
Is that how you would treat a
Is
woman?
that how? I mean, you probably want to intimidate her so that she will go.
And you know, this is what they do. I was going to. This is what happens every day.
They want to intimidate
every
you.
day.
Is that how?
No.
Let's even forget the sex now. Is that how you should treat anyone when you're wrong? Do you understand? Even a man. Like, imagine he ran into me, and then I'm trying to take, like you guys said, it was the plate number, but Bobrisky was trying, and I'm trying to get, and then you smash my phone.
He will buy that phone, no?
Do you understand? Like, that's not how to treat anyone. I've ran into people's cars. He said there was no damage. right?
Mhm.
And then
He said his
I'm sure
own
you've
bumper
been
was- I know his own bumper was exactly
you're
what-
a witness of that, yeah? I've run into people's
If
cars.
I speak to
and
beg,
then-
he's always very humble at that
I'm always
moment.
like, I'm so sorry. And then
I'm
I
sorry,
speak
I'm
my
sorry.
best English. Do you understand? I speak my best English and they let me go. Do you understand? So that's not the right way to treat anyone, especially when you're wrong. It's like somebody coming down from his car like, are you insane? Why would you hit my car like that? And I'm like, you two, you must be crazy. Do you understand? Like,
Yeah, man.
I think the
Everybody's
guy has
just on the
inferiority
edge.
complex,
Yeah.
and I hope that since Daddy Freeze had the
It's
time,
just a bully.
He's a
to go
bully.
and-
This one is not even
since he had the
he's
time
a
to go and
bully.
track him down, I hope he had the time to also sit him down and
And
talk
advise
some
him.
sense to
Train
him.
him.
That's if he knows what to tell him. Anyway.
That's why one day
Daddy Freeze has
he
the
would
right
attack he would attack the wrong person, the wrong female person.
Ah.
And that day, Bushmeat went up and they said that thing.
Bushmeat go catch the hunter.
I'm telling you that day. This is Bobrisky, so I don't think they will.
So let's
take
wrap
it
up with
serious.
one day Bushmeat go catch the hunter.
Nah, don't worry. Sound Sultan will come and sing it for you. And that's our wrap up this episode of Tea Time. Thank you for watching. And remember, you can catch up on all this episode and all our exclusive content by subscribing to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa. You can also watch Tea Time on Auto TV and in London on Ben Television. My thank you as always will go to my co-anchors Ewa Oluwa Ritu and Ife Oluwa Shekeye and the entire production team. My name is Elsie Godwin saying thank you for watching and see you later.
This Medan has been directed to empower 1,000 persons with disabilities in each state in the next 12 months.
When I start hearing the shoot of guns,
every public policy has winners and losers, and some will not be very happy with you, while others, usually the silent majority, will be quite happy.
To an extent, the reading culture of Nigerians is not too good. A lot of people believe that every other thing is much more important than buying a book to read. Apart from the fact that people just want to read books for the purpose of passing their exams or going through school, hardly do people believe that reading outside that purpose still will help them to an extent.
It's been full of ups and downs. Nigerians don't read. I dare to disagree because, I mean, we're 16K followers strong on our Instagram account, on other platforms as well. We also have a huge following. So if at all people are not interested in books in Nigeria, we don't have people follow in the first place. And it's so exciting to find out that there are so many people outside of Lagos in deep core parts of Nigeria that are buying and shopping for us, and they are just so excited that, oh, this book is locally available and it's sort of like within reach for them. So it's been exciting. It could be better, but again, we do it for the culture, you do it for the passion, and hopefully more stakeholders get interested in it, and it gets better. I got into selling books because I was very passionate about it, and then I was hungry to find other people like me. I wanted to connect with them, and the kind of books that fascinated me were not, I could hardly find people around who were excited about them as well. So at the time, when I interact with people within my age range, they're either talking about some foreign authors that write books outside of the context that I'm familiar with. So I wanted to meet with other young people, other people of like minds who were excited about the kind of books that I liked. And yeah, that was basically how it all began. And then beyond that also, I definitely used to go to some website online to find out what people are, what books are first to reckon with internationally. And then most of those books are not available locally, so I had to either shop from some big names out there. And then I thought, oh, if these books are available and people are actually talking about them, reviewing them, perhaps there might be young people or people in Nigeria as well that would really want to read about them. So I end up bringing a few copies, see if I can circulate within my circle, publicize, use social media, and see how far it goes. And so that was how it all started.
It's actually more like born out of inspiration, and then the drive to bring books closer to people, because at some points that I loved reading, I found it hard getting the kind of books I really always wanted to read. So it was like, yeah, you could get this for other people, and then it's been there for me. So I'm having fun doing what I'm doing, and I'm the fact that I can have access to books too as a bookseller is fantastic for me. Yeah, it's been profitable. It's how you do the business that makes it profitable for you. So it's been profitable. It may not be the best of the businesses in the country or in the world, especially maybe in this part of the world, knowing fully well the attitude to reading and education generally, and then even government's attitude to education, but still, there are still people who know that without education, they wouldn't be where they are. And then even if they are not educated, they get the best of educated people to work for them. So that means education, which comes through reading of books, is a key and vital role in this life.
It has enhanced reading, but what I realize is that even for those who normally would not like to buy a Bible before, because of the ability to read their Bibles from their phones. A lot of people are beginning to dump reading Bibles on their phones with buying regular Bibles, because they've seen the importance of having to carry a Bible or read a hard copy Bible. When people read from their phones, most times they can't easily go back or even highlight certain things. But with the hard copy Bible, they are able to do some highlighting, go back, make references and all that. So technology, to an extent, it has its own advantage and its own disadvantage to our business. Advantages are the fact that people could, read at any time they want to, in the dark, wherever. But disadvantage is the fact that it's handy, when you have your books on your media, electronic media. But for those who still cherish the hard copy books, they still come back, to pick up the hard copy books from us. Lots of Nigerians are writing more, because virtually on a daily basis we get new books from Nigerian writers, asking that Latona should carry their books. It's a bit challenging, but at the same time we try to encourage them, to review their books and then accept it for display on our shelves.
We still battle with issues of piracy. There are times where royalties are not paid the way they are supposed to. Publishing houses don't put enough effort to promoting books the way they are supposed to. So that way books, and people are not even aware that some Nigerian authors are writing really, really good books. I think sometimes more books written by Nigerian authors are sort of like accepted in the Western world better than they are locally. And also, in terms of marketing, publicity, locally, more effort still needs to be put in place to help us combat issues of piracy, and then ensure that people are more able to access so many of these books as well locally.
For book lovers, I say keep reading, because you know already what you are gaining from reading. And then for governments, give more allocation to education. Allocation to education is very important, and you can't have a government that just places less emphasis on education, and every year you expect your people to be better, and then there are fightings. Any small thing, any little thing, there's fights, and it's all because of the level of exposure and education of the people, and it's playing a role in every facet of the economy, every facet of the society, because people are not well enlightened about their rights, about the opportunities that they can actually get, and many of those things come in through parts of education, and reading is part of it.
In a classic case of now you see me, now you don't, the National Assembly has discovered non-existent projects in the 2020 budget proposed by the National Inland Waterways Agency. And Is funding education now becoming a challenge as state governments are being accused of providing inadequate funding for state universities? This is Plus Politics, and I am Felicity Ezewike. The National Assembly has discovered non-existent projects in the 2020 budget proposed by the National Inland Waterways Agency. It was further discovered that over 4 billion naira had been appropriated for these items between 2017 and 2019. The alleged fraud was discovered during the budget defense session held for the Federal Ministry of Transportation and NIWA by the House Committee on Inland Waterways. Joining me to discuss this are two gentlemen. I'll start with Lulu Elegbe. Thank you very much for joining us. And of course, we have Mayowa Idowu, political analyst, both of you. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Pardon. We're back again. It's phrased differently. But how did such a thing got missed in previous years? Because it showed that it was there the year before. Where did those monies go?
Yeah, I think it's one of these many-headed problems that we have, right? Because when all this with pretty much all the budgets we've had in Nigeria have had these sorts of elements in some nature, right? But it wasn't until I think the budget of, was it 2016 or 2017, where this became a big thing, where padding became part of the Nigerian lexicon. And the good thing about that was that it brought some public awareness to that part of the budgetary process. And I think people that were doing those things were, even if they didn't stop, at least they were a bit more careful in terms of how they did such things. From my understanding, it used to be quite brazen at one point. But I think we shouldn't have the illusion that just because this thing has been blown wide open, or it was blown wide open a few years ago, it means it's going to actually stop. It won't stop. People will just be a bit more clever with how they do it.
But they still don't seem to be clever because this was discovered. The question I'm asking again is, how did all the previous committees miss this huge amount of money?
Well, it's not like, to be fair, it's not like they just took an amount and just put it there. They actually put a purpose behind it. It's in having the conversations about what exactly is this supposed to be for.
Non-existent from what the committee is saying.
Yeah, but if you look at the line items, it's not going to say non-existent.
What's your take on this?
It's going to actually be attached to something. It's only when you do a deeper dive into it that you see that, no, this is really not attached to anything, but it just means you need to look a bit more closely.
I'm still going to take that question to you. How did we miss this over and over again, as it seems?
I think it's just people not doing their jobs. Because the reason why it's been discovered was because someone thought, you know what, let's scrutinize everything that's on this budget. And it's in the course of that you find out that, these things don't exist. So what probably happened was, in previous years, it was just, we know the way the National Assembly works. Sometimes they do not scrutinize these things. So I think what we should be happy about is that, someone decided to do their job for once and they were able to figure this out and take the necessary action.
The committee says they're going to investigate this. You rightly noted that this is not a new occurrence. It's just that people chose to do their job. Do you see them following through? Do you expect a report on this particular case?
The thing, to answer that question, I'm actually not sure, because this is not the first time where, headlines are made of certain things happening, but then in terms of the transparency, you don't get to see the end report. So
but this is a new set of National Assembly members. This is a new team coming on board, and they're, climbing on the...
That's debatable. Because, when you say it's a new set, well, new in the... Okay, let me put it
Ninth
this way.
assembly. We had 8th assembly. Even if you have some of them, I know you're thinking that the ones that return.
It's not just that. The ones that returned, the ones that were maybe former governors, former House of Reps members who won seats. So when you... Talking about new in the context of doing things differently would mean people that haven't been involved in certain aspects of that budgetary process, whether it's at the state level or whatever it is.
But some of the people, not to interrupt you, some of the people that are here getting the real leadership position for, for a change this time around. We have new leadership in that house, even if they've been part of the system, which is a good thing. They know what not to do.
Yeah,
so
but
is it possible that they're changing their
No,
mind
but
now?
the problem is that the system on its own is flawed, right? So unless you have very principled people going in there, you're going to have the same, because somebody comes in there and say wants to do things a certain way. There's a way that certain conversations would go, which is, this is how it works here. This is how we do things here. So it's one of two things. Either the person sticks to his principles and says, no, I don't do things that way, or you just go with the flow and just carry on doing do it the way it's been done. Because the reality is, even if someone is trying to do something different, the system has become so, I don't know the right word to use.
So you're basically saying
up.
you don't see a report from
No,
any
because
investigation.
all the ones that have happened, where's the report on those
That's
ones?
what I'm
Nothing.
saying. This is a new team,
So why
and
do we
they're
think
saying
it'll be
that
different?
they're going to. Shouldn't we? They've not given us any antecedent to build on. So
That's my point. Well, that's my point. Because you're going to see, half the problem in Nigeria is a lack of consequences, to be honest. Because things keep repeating themselves because there are no consequences for bad behavior in Nigeria. So budget padding has been going on since forever in Nigeria. When it became a big story 4 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever it was, yes, it was a big headline and all that, but what came out of it? Were there consequences for people that actually padded those budgets? I think 1 or 2 people lost their jobs, but beyond that, nothing happened. So not to be the pessimist, but because there were no real consequences for that, I fully expected that it was going to happen again.
Okay,
and I think that's half the problem in Nigeria, to be honest.
Okay, well, we'll try and look for solutions, as hard as it may be,
no, I
because
agree.
the entire point of this program is to have conversation about these issues and proffer the right way we should be doing things. This is not... the question of budget and budget proposal, you said, is not new. It's something that we've had for a long time. And these MDAs have been presenting budgets year on year. How is it that they still present budgets that probably there are some that have been rejected currently, some that have been asked to go back and change certain things? What is wrong? This is something that these MDAs do every year. So shouldn't they be preparing? Shouldn't they be long-term plans? Like, okay, we're planning towards or is it rush once the budget is presented, the rush to put things together? What is wrong? How can we solve it?
To be honest, I think the answer is kind of in the question, in that how much long-term planning can you really account for in terms of, are these things that thought out? And then another thing is, because I think a lot of times we're used to, it's like when you want to do wuru to the answer. So maybe before exam period now, you just start rushing it. So it's like now, like I can imagine like the MDAs it's the type of thing where it's budget season, they know they need X amount, but they don't, like, in terms of the itemization, it's probably not accurate, but it's like, okay, we can put X for this, we can put X for that. When we get the money, we'll do what we're going to do. So I think, as he said, I think it's because there's been a lack of consequence. So a big show is made of it, but there are no consequences, so people can keep doing the same things and hoping and trusting they won't get caught or there will be no consequence.
Your take on that?
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know. We've had this, so this isn't like, I think like we've both said, it's not a new issue. So I'm not, the reality is that until we get to a point where ministries know that anything they submit to the Senate will be scrutinized, will be checked and double-checked and triple-checked, this is going to keep happening. I'm happy that this has come out, because at least it shows that more than two eyes are on these, at least we're on those particular ones. But to be fair to the Senate as well, I think to your point, when the ministries go to the Senate to defend their budget, I don't think the Senate asking them to go back to review certain things is an indication that the ministry didn't do its job, because the job of the Senate is to actually look at those budgets and approve or disapprove of certain things. So there are things the ministries might say that we want to use 1 billion to do X, Y, Z, and the Senate looks at it and says, no, that's too much, or no, we don't think you need this. So those conversations, in my opinion, are good, because it shows there's an engagement they're not just rubber stamping whatever the ministry is saying. There's actually conversations going on about, is this wasteful? Is this a good use of resources? Those sorts of, and that's the job of the Senate. So I think it's a good thing that they're asking them those questions, and asking them to go back and review certain things isn't necessarily a bad thing. But where, like you said, where you just have some ministries just putting in anything and the only reason they will do that is because they don't think it will be given that much scrutiny. Because if you really believe that these guys are going to scrutinize what you're submitting, you'll be a bit more careful with what you're actually submitting to them.
So, aside the scrutiny, what do you think, in your opinion, the Night Assembly can do differently to engender confidence? Because you don't seem to have that confidence in them right now because of antecedents. So, are they doing it right, in your opinion, at least with this budget?
Well, with this, maybe not with the entire budget, but with that particular section of that particular ministry or that particular item of the budget, yes. But what I hope to see is something like that replicated across the board in terms of budget. Scrutinizing it and asking those questions, why do you need this? Or looking at it with 3, 4, 6, 10 eyes, 9 eyes, and being able to spot any padding, any things that don't make any sense. So when you say ministries are defending their budget, they should actually defend every single thing there, because even if it's in the scheme of things, even if you say 10 million naira for tissue paper, for example, that's just a rough example. Somebody should be able to say, does that actually make sense? But I suspect that when you see something like that, because it's a paltry amount of money in the scheme of things, those kinds of things would probably slip under the radar. But my point is, if we are going to make any headway, then we should be able to, the Senate anyway, should be able to scrutinize these line items in the budget, be able to say, okay, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. And where the Senate thinks it doesn't make sense, they should be able to push back on the ministries or the minister and say, why do you need this? Why do you need X amount for this? Why do you need to spend money on this? And the ministry should be able to defend it. If they can defend it in a way that makes sense, that's fine. If they can't, then they have to go back and review it or remove it completely. That's the job of the Senate. That's what this entire budget process is supposed to be about. And I would hope that's what they start doing going forward.
Mayowa, do you envisage a time when budgets will be presented and we won't be talking about padding of the budget? We'll be looking at, like he was highlighting, issues, amounts, what you're using for what are the projects, are they real, are they fake? Do you envisage a time when the process will be strictly that and no more go back and redo your proposal?
Obviously, it's something we can all dream about. We can all look forward to.
Is there a time?
But how likely is it? How likely is it possible? I don't think so, because I think, again, with these things, you also have to make room for what I'll call Nigerian factor. So, there are processes and the way they're supposed to work, but you also have to make room for that 15%, 20% Nigerian factor, where things that really shouldn't be things rear their heads. So I think it's a dream, and maybe one day we'll get there.
What's your assessment of the way the Night Assembly now? He's talked about, what he sees, but what is your assessment of the way they've handled this budgetary process? The president has presented and they're beginning to scrutinize it so far. Are they doing well, in your opinion?
I mean, I guess you have to give them credit for, how smoothly the process has gone in terms of, for once, we might probably see a situation where the budget will actually run from January to December as opposed to, because normally it's usually done later than this. So, first of all, you have to give credit to the president for submitting his budget in good time. You have to give credit to the assembly for, scrutinizing it now and making the necessary checks. So, I guess we'll have to give them credit for that.
Will they meet the deadline with the pace at which they're going?
I hope so. Like you said, they've started it early enough, so they should. I would hope they do. I mean, there are times when we're talking about a particular year's budget in June or in July, in the middle of the year. So for this to have started in October of the previous year, I think it makes it's a good thing. I hope that means they can actually make the deadline. But then again, making the deadline means that the back and forth is reduced. So there isn't that much back and forth. And the only way that happens is if the ministries have submitted things that make sense in the first place. So, and if the Senate is doing its job properly, then they should be able to ask those questions. Even if it's going to push against the deadline, it's better they do that properly than to hit January or February and then we start finding out things like this, which doesn't help anybody.
For the ordinary man on the street who doesn't quite get it, the conversation about making sure the budgetary cycle is from January to December, why is this and what will be the economic benefit, like the benefit of this budgetary cycle to the economic well-being of this country? Maiwa.
Okay. You know how, I remember a couple of years ago when, I don't know who it was saying, when the government releases, when the budget is approved and the government releases money, things move. Mm-hmm. That's what happens. When the government releases money for infrastructure, for the ministries, and for them to get their projects going, I think it creates like a ripple effect where the money, it goes from one hand to one hand. So I think in terms of just even for the speed at which you want business to grow and for an economy that's been a bit shaky, I think obviously the budget getting approved and working in due time will help the system. Yeah.
Do you have something to add to that?
No, I agree with that because it distorts the system where you have 2020 budget being approved in June 2020, for example. It causes so many disruptions and distortions in the economy because if you have, 2020 budget is meant to go January to December. So like you said, the government releases money for certain things, whether it's, if you think about the number of infrastructure projects that are ongoing at the moment, if that money is released on time, then those things last throughout, I'm sure they're in tranches, but it's I don't know what the word is. It goes on throughout the year rather than you have a project that is planned to start January 2020 and as at February or March or April, we still don't know when the funds for that project is going to start. So already you've pushed out the deadline for completion of that project. And this thing, like you said, it has a ripple effect on everything else. So if we can get to that point where we know that January to December is when this is when the cycle is. Everything else that is planned for that period, a lot of it is about planning as well, because if you can plan that January to December time, then you can almost accurately predict where certain milestones are going to be over the course of the year. But where you're not even sure when it's going to happen. Is it going to happen in June? Is it going to even happen in August of the following year? Then it just messes all sorts of things up in the economy.
To go back to the Niwa situation, do you see them coming back with an explanation that will vindicate them from, that project that the money was, budgeted for was bogus?
again, because I don't know the specifics, because it's one side saying this is bogus. So, I mean, you would grant NUA their right to fair hearing to explain why and how that was a thing, and then for the National Assembly to then make a decision. So, I don't think any government agency can just get away with making bogus, like, for something like this where you submitted, there's a line item that no one can point to, no one knows exists. I don't think any government agency can just get away with just throwing it under the rug. I think they have to investigate it.
Lulu, do you think there's an honest explanation why the Senate doesn't seem, the National Assembly members do not seem to, find where this project is, and money was budgeted for it, it was collected?
Well, I think without the issue is we probably wouldn't know how the Senate came to that conclusion, because I would imagine that they are not just reading it and saying, no, this doesn't exist. There are certain things they would have seen to be able to say, no, this doesn't make sense, this does not exist. But at the same time, if NUA has put it there, I would imagine that they have some sort of story behind it, which, again, that then becomes a conversation between NUA or the Ministry of Transport and the Senate. So is it honest? I honestly don't know, but I want to believe that the Senate would not just say this doesn't exist just by reading it. That will be based on certain information that I'm sure that they have. And like you said, NUA should have the opportunity to defend that and say, well, it does exist because X, Y, Z, or no, it doesn't exist, and then that then becomes a criminal issue at that point.
What do you expect to see at the end of this exercise, scrutinizing? Do you see an increment in the budgetary proposal by the National Assembly, as we've seen in some cases in the past, or maybe a reduction in the total amount that the President is asking for?
I would expect a reduction, because I think it's clear the government is broke. And I think with this way things are going, I think the government, number one, first of all, have to be seen to be cutting down their spending. And I would think the Senate will be able to hold them to that little bit of account to, check things a little bit.
Your thoughts? So
yeah, no, I agree with that. I think we have, I don't know if it's a revenue shortfall or high costs, a combination of both. But either way, it just means the government right now doesn't have money. That's what it boils down to, and which is why we're seeing
many Nigerians will not agree with you that the government does not have money. They don't look like they don't have money, at least the officials.
Well, the government is broke. that's the reality. Nigeria as a country is broke.
Oh.
That's the
I'll take your
reality.
word for it.
Well, you don't have to. It's everywhere. We know this. I mean, the country is broke. And they're trying to raise revenue. But I think, I mean, when you have financial issues, it's one of two things: you raise revenue or you reduce cost, or you do both. And we seem to keep going after revenue in Nigeria. How do we raise more revenue? But we don't seem that concerned with reducing costs. And I think that, for me, is an issue.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thanks very much.
All right, we'll go on a short break, and when we return, funding tertiary institutions, especially state universities, how are we doing? Subventions are being cut. This and more when we come back. Stay with us.
Welcome to The Advocate. 5 freshly baked topics, no holds barred.
Time to bake a bigger cake.
We must bake a bigger cake. The only problem is where are we going to get the ingredients from, you know?
If I'm in a plane that's about to crash, and you ask me who I want at that helm, I don't care whose brother he is, as long as he can fly that plane. You know, I'm not going to look for someone who is my brother, who speaks my language.
I actually believe that our president has dementia. I know that's quite a controversial view.
I'm glad you're flying out after that statement.
After the break, Fola Shade is calling for action. 40 seconds of action, to be exact.
And this guy just kept following me. What do you want to buy? I have sheep, I have shirt, I have this. I said I want to buy Calon. There wasn't anything like Calon. I don't even know what I said. He said I have it.
I want to dedicate this advocacy to the resilience of the human breed called Nigerians. Probably, no, undoubtedly one of the wonders of the world.
Welcome to Tea Time on Plus TV Africa, where we bring you the biggest entertainment stories and, of course, analyze them for you.
You can have both parents and still end up as a useless child. I see them every day.
Most times I worry more about where I'm coming from and where I am now, and that determines my next step.
Why are you sounding like an
Alibaba
now?
Plus TV Africa, we're feeling good. No time to dull, everybody feeling alright.
Make music and people are still buying. Sometimes I look myself minimal IU.
Akpala music is for mature-minded people. I got DMs sometimes from Malawi, like,
Sleeping early.
So, due to the reduced allocations from the federal account, the Federation account, state governments have been accused of abandoning the responsibility of funding their universities. A Punch investigation have showed that many state governments had reduced subventions to their universities, while others had stopped funding the institutions following the economic downturn in the country. This has led to adverse effects, such as the struggle to pay salaries and the neglecting of research. Why establish institutions we cannot take care of? And how do we improve our education sector if this is still happening in 2019? Still with me in the studio, Lulu Elegbe, thank you very much, and Mayowa Ito, thank you very much for staying with us. What does this mean? Subvention. The states are cutting even further. The universities are screaming, we don't have enough. They are in a tug of war with the federal government over, maintenance and salaries, and now we have this. What does this mean, really? Let's start from there.
Okay, so the state government, a number of the universities in Nigeria, well, not all universities in Nigeria are private, like we know. So some of them are federal owned, some of them are state owned, and so they have to be funded by whoever owns them, including the private ones. So those are funded by the owners. Now, because, like we mentioned earlier, the country is broke, the government is broke, state governments, federal government, that's having a ripple effect on funding for these universities and other public institutions. But I think some of these things, for me, is not just the money is being cut and those sorts of things, but for me, it's an opportunity to take a step back and make certain hard decisions. For example, Lagos State has Unilag. I think it's a federal university. There's Unilag, there's Yaba Tech, there's LASU, and then you have a number of private universities as well. It's almost the same. That's replicated almost across most of the states in the country. As far as I'm concerned, right, my view of this is that the government should concentrate on, even if you have just one university. Personally, I think one university, one federally, or maybe one federal university per geopolitical zone should be enough. a lot of people would argue with that, but the reason I say that is because university education anywhere in the world is not cheap. That's the reality. It's expensive. It's not just Nigeria. It's expensive anywhere. So when you start having a state that has 5, 6, 10 universities, how exactly are you going to maintain them? It doesn't make any sense. These things are not cheap by any standard. You're going to pay professors, you're going infrastructure, research, all these kinds of things. So why not just close down many of these universities, focus on a few, and channel the resources that you'd have spent on so many, channel them into bringing those ones up to global standards. So if we have one university, for example, in southwest Nigeria, and the resources of the southwestern states and the federal government is channeled to that one university, can you imagine what that would look like in terms of the kind of standard? Like I understand the political realities around that.
Aside the political realities, let's look at the population. You know, in the country, that poses a challenge in itself, because even the institutions that we have.
Sorry, I know where you're going, but that's the second part of the issue. And it's not a popular thing to say, but the reality is that university is not for everybody. Let's be honest, it's not. But in Nigeria, we like to do my son has to be a doctor, my daughter has to be a lawyer kind of thing. That's when in 2019, the world has moved beyond that. This idea that you have this, you almost have this thing set out for you. You go from primary school to secondary school to JAM to university and then into the workforce. The world doesn't work that way anymore. We need to catch up with the rest of the world in terms of how we do certain things. You can be a successful person without going to university. It's not all about having a degree. We need to move past that in Nigeria.
Let's bring Mayowa into this conversation. First off, do you subscribe to a reduction in the number of institutions per state?
Yes, I do actually, because I think with these things, again, it's back to what we were saying about the government being broke and there being cuts that need to be made. These are hard decisions. And I think a lot of these universities are really acts of folly in that, states, I don't see why certain states should have, more than 3 or 2 higher education institutions, because I think what you end up doing is you have all these schools that you cannot maintain, so it's very quantity-based, no quality. And I think education is something we really need to work on tweaking, and I think that will be like the first step towards...
So how would we address the political and population issues, which I was trying to, but I wanted him to learn. How, in your opinion, are we going to address that?
Okay, what I would propose, let's say a certain state cannot really afford to maintain that a university or higher college institution. Why don't you do like a public-private partnership? Let someone come, be responsible for maintaining and operating this institution. You can pay the government a license fee or whatever, or you pay them a set fee. But I think what we have to do now is improve the quality.
There is a problem, because we have quite a number of private institutions in this country that is thriving, even in the face of the challenges that our state institutions are having. You still have them applying for licenses almost on a daily basis. People want more institutions in this country. So is that maybe part of the problem?
Absolutely. That is a major part of the problem, because with this story, I think it was in the Daily Telegraph or one of the other papers, where someone, I can't remember who he was, he was making a point about setting up universities more attractive, because he said some of the NUC's requirements, things like you need to have, 300 hectares of land, you need to have 200 million naira, 5 million naira registration fee, all those sorts of things. He was saying that he thinks it's too much. They should reduce it so that more private people can set up universities. But I actually think the opposite should be the case. I think it should be less attractive to set up universities, because somebody sets up a university today. everything is going well, and then for some reason, for whatever reason, the person has financial issues tomorrow, it's going to affect that university, and we've seen it happen.
Yes, I was a victim.
That's exactly my point. We've seen these things happen. So this idea that you can anyone can approach NUC as long as you meet certain requirements, you can say, why do we need so many, for God's sake? Why do we need so many universities? The ones that are there are not being maintained properly. Whether it's, I mean, yes, the private ones are probably better maintained than the state ones, which is to be expected because the private sector versus public sector thing. But the reality is that whether it's public, whether it's private, the reality is that we have too many universities, and that wouldn't be a problem if they were being maintained. The reality is they are not. You have lecturers not being paid or being underpaid compared to what the standard for what a professor, for example, should be earning. You have you have the strikes going on almost every 2 years. Students spend 8 years on 4-year courses because ASU is on strike, then NASU is on strike. So we have all these recurrent issues, and these things won't stop. These things are not going to end because the reality is that the government doesn't have the money to keep maintaining these universities. So, which is why I'm saying that, why not just have one or two in a particular, what's it called? Geopolitical zone, so that you know that everything you need in terms of resources is concentrating on making those the best that they can be. Then anyone trying to get into those universities, you have to be able to meet certain requirements. It's not a case of my uncle is the VC, so he can make a call. We need to stop all those things, because as long as we have these sorts of universities that are underfunded and so the quality is very, very bad, or the quality is not as good as it should be, what kind of graduates do you think are going to come out from those universities? These things are going to affect everything else.
So as you were talking, I was thinking about the governors. They keep going to cut education subvention for the universities and tertiary institutions and the likes. Some people are saying that if there is a will, there will be a way. That this government could do it, but it is because of a lack of emphasis, appreciation of the importance of education. That is why this situation is. Do you agree?
Yes and no, in that I think education is very important, but I think it might sound controversial, but I think more primary education should be the priority. So if you're cutting, for me, it's easier to cut at the tertiary level, because I think
but the primary level is not even getting the needed attention. So where are the monies for education?
Well,
I know these questions are posing at you, but we need to think about these issues.
I agree with the premise of your questions, right? But the thing is, it's not. I think you said yes and no. So for me, it's actually just no, because I don't think the issue is the government's or lack of focus on education or lack of emphasis on education. I don't think that's what the issue is, because remember that this has been a recurrent issue over the last God knows how many administrations. So it's not something that is unique to. So these universities didn't go into a state of non-maintenance under the Buhari administration. It's something that's been happening. I think that decline started a long time ago, and it's only gotten worse over time. Now, they have, I think, the TED fund and all this counterpart funding to do all these things and all that. But I think we don't think about sustainability in Nigeria. So let's say the UN or somebody gives $1 billion tomorrow to fund infrastructure projects in universities. A lot of people get excited. Maybe they repaint the buildings, they do certain things. But then after the first, second, third year, what happens? You're not going to get that 1 billion every year. You're going to get it over a period of time. So what's going to happen to the infrastructure after that? How do you maintain the infrastructure after that? How do you keep paying your lecturers a good wage after that? So that sustainability is what I don't think a lot of thought goes into it. It's just about setting it up. Once it's set up, they do the ribbon cutting, it looks good, but what happens after that? And that's why I feel like the problem is that there are too many of them. And there's no state, I think I was reading in the story, Akwa Ibom, which from my understanding, I think has the highest federal allocation. Even Akwa Ibom State University is struggling. It's a problem. It doesn't.
So with all this multiplicity of challenges, we have the issue of curriculum, we have ASUP and ASU issues with the federal government, now we have state government saying they don't have monies to fund institutions. What hope is there for education in this country?
I don't think it's a case of losing all hope. I just think it's a case of re-strategizing. So rethinking, understanding that, okay, the model as it is right now does not work. The idea, the goal should be, okay, how can we make it work? So again, it could be, I think also in terms of even the accreditation process, there should also be, I think there should also be higher standards in terms of, if a university is not meeting certain standards, downgrade it. Let it become a technical college. Let it be something, let them go and specialize, and because then I think you invest, so now, sorry.
So what I'm trying to ask again is, do we have a leadership challenge? Do we have people who will be willing to go the extra mile? Because what we are talking about, as much as some persons might not see it as very crucial, it is like the backbone of the survival of this nation. If we don't get it right with education, then I don't know where we are.
No, I think I agree with Maiwa, because the issue is really, it's clear that whatever we're doing with education in Nigeria is not working. That much is clear. So then the question becomes, okay, what would work for Nigeria, and how do we make that happen?
That's the question I'm asking. Do we have the people that will be willing to do
well, to be fair, we have people, maybe not at the level of, say, a minister of education, for example, but I know for a fact that we have people that are asking those questions and actually trying to change things. I mean, we had some of them on Plus TV a few weeks ago. I think they started this, I think it's called Teach for Nigeria or Teach Nigeria or something. And I think they're doing an amazing job, because they're starting to change the narrative in terms of how teachers are approached, how teachers are viewed, how they deliver the curriculum to schools, those sorts of things. It's those, as long as we have people like that are making even the smallest of changes, the idea is to try and see if that can then be replicated across the board. Now, do we have the will in government to do that? It would take, for that to happen, the government would have to see education as important as any other, as whatever the biggest line item in the budget is. Right now, I don't think they see it as enough of a priority. Yeah, everybody says education is important, but you can't say that on the one hand, and then you look at what has been allocated for education, and it just doesn't add up in terms of what you're saying and what you're allocating for it.
I must say thank you very much, gentlemen, for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you for coming. And thank you for staying with us. We're not done. We'll go on a short break for our Plus report. And when we return, I'll be giving my take. Just stay with us.
The Nigerian police has paraded about 81 suspected criminals arrested for various criminal activities. The first public relations officer, Frank Mba, while addressing newsmen in Abuja, said the suspects were arrested for several crimes, which include kidnapping, murder, local weapons manufacturing, internet fraud, among others. Mba said notable among the suspects were members of a notorious gang which was created in the Katsina Correctional Facility and have been responsible for several high-profile kidnappings in the Northwest. He urged Nigerians to be security conscious and work with the police, especially in the area of intelligence sharing.
We have today a total of 81 suspects. Most of the suspects here are suspects that have been indicted in our investigations and prima facie cases of murder, kidnapping, unlawful possession of weapons, and internet fraud clearly established against them. We also have yet another very dangerous gang led by one Rufai. This particular gang was formed in Castina prisons. Members of this gang were all persons who have been prosecuted by the police, and some of them were serving jail sentences, and were almost rounding off their sentences, while others were actually in the prison awaiting trials. Somehow they were able to get themselves together while in the prison, formed a very deadly gang, and while in the prison they hatched the plot to kidnap one Alhaji Tukuru Subairu, a wealthy businessman in Sokoto State. As soon as they were out of the prisons, they embarked on that mission, kidnapped the businessman, and collected ransoms running into several millions from him. Again, we went after them, and as I speak to you today, all the gang members have been arrested.
It goes without saying, as acknowledged by our guest tonight, that much more needs to be done to salvage what is left of our educational institutions. And because I have no ready solutions aside what was suggested tonight, I will ask questions instead. Will a reduction in the number of institutions be a consideration for our governments? Will the people allow for court-cutting measures if proven it will enhance the quality of our institutions? Are we ready for change? We need to find answers, and fast. The future of Nigeria depends on it. Thank you for sharing your time with us tonight. We hope it was worthwhile. Do keep watching Plus TV Africa, and remember to share your thoughts on our programs. Find us on any of our preferred social media platforms at Plus TV Africa. Until I see you again, please be well.
Sometimes when we see celebrities either on social media, television, or in person, we assume they have it all together, but we forget that they're also human. Well, here are some of the low points of some of your favorite celebrities.
As a young person growing up, I have had to sell akamu on my head. You know, yeah, on a tray. You go like in the morning, like very early in the morning before I go to school. Buy akamu, you know. That's why you should never underrate anyone. No matter the situation, you see them or you find them. When I go to UK and had to play at the Rio Festival Hall with Miriam Makeba, then, oh my God, I'm like, that's akamu selling girl that was selling akamu. You know, so be inspired. Be inspired. Follow your dream. Follow your heart. Sit back and say, what is my passion in life? What can I do to better the world? And before you know it, you're already making an impact.
When I came to Lagos here after school, I remembered I entered what is called 911. 911 is a kind of lorry found then that they will load Gary, load in at the back. Then in between the driver and the load, we have what is called second class. And that is where I sat. And could you believe that by the time I got to Ido and I came down, my box, my shoe, because it took us 3 days from Bender, from Midwest to Lagos. all my loads were loaded. You see, when you pass through such, and when you become somebody, you look back and you look at what people are going through. It makes you to help others.
When I decided to be an apprentice photographer, we were living in Ebute-Metta, and I would trek, from Ebute-Metta into Willoughby, from Willoughby into cross the Leventis into Ido Road, past Ido railway station, go across the Kata Bridge, and then into Agbogbon, into Pro Street. And I trekked that for 1 whole year. And then finally, when I got to London, I had to be a cleaner, every morning. Get out of the house by 4:30 to clean till 9 a.m. and then rush off to school. So I've done quite a lot of things like that, and I still continue to do that. And so for me, it is part of one's development. And I didn't see that I was suffering. Occasionally, you want to stop. You have cried many times. I've failed many times, but I've just got up. I get up again. A lot of people, I enjoy goodwill of some people who pull me up again and help me on my feet, and then I go on.
I finished that film and I became very famous. As young as I was, I didn't even know what it was. Everybody would just be calling me over. I'm like, what's wrong? What's going on? When the film was all over the place, so I couldn't go to the market, and I used to go to the market a lot, to go and buy all these second-hand, outfits, and then there was one day I went to the market with a couple of my friends, and I just realized that I just couldn't buy these things anymore because they would tease me. The people in the market, the traders would always tease me and said, so you see, they come buy Pendam Boutique, So that made me realize that, so if I become a star, there are a lot of things I won't be able to do, or what? So I went back and I said to myself, is this how I'm going to live my life? I won't be who I want to be. I won't be myself. And I said, no, I won't let that catch up with me. Just be who you are, no matter your craft, no matter how high you think you've become. Still be that same person that the girl next door, still the girl or the boy next door that people can always relate to.
The first thing is for us to get the education. We need to understand what child sexual abuse is about. Firstly, child sexual abuse is any sexual activity between an adult and a child. And when I talk about a child is someone between the age of 0 and 18. So that's when you have sexual activity with a child who is between the age of 0 and 18. So the first step that we should know about child sexual abuse is education. We need to understand what child sexual abuse is. Child sexual abuse can happen to anyone, anywhere, and anytime. Then the second one is to teach children what we call body boundary, body safety, and space boundary as well. What do I mean by that? You should be able to educate children that their body belongs to them. Apart from God, their body belongs to them. They should be able to identify every part of their body and label them correctly. We should teach children the correct names of their body parts. Personally, I believe there is nothing like good touch or bad touch or private part and public part for children. I believe that every part of a child is private. From the strand of their hair to the sole of their feet is private. They don't have the right to give consent. So we consider every body part of a child as private. So parents, caregivers, anyone who handles children should be able to understand this, that there is nothing called public or private part. I mean, every part of the child is private. Then we have to be careful. We need to teach children what we call trusted adults. Trusted adults are adults who children can easily run up to or go and speak with about their concerns. When something happens, who can your child run to go and meet? Is it their father? Is it their mother? Is it anyone around them who is an adult, and you consider them safe with children? We call them trusted adults. So I said that children should be able to mention and label their body parts correctly. The private part that we generally know for girls is the vagina, their vulva, their breast, their lap, their buttocks. We should not call Botox bomb bomb. It is not bomb bomb, it is Botox. Because we have identified that some of these predators actually use this against the children. If a child cannot correctly say the appropriate name of their private body parts, predators, they use this against them, and the children may not be able to communicate well what exactly is wrong with them. If you take, for instance, when you call penis cucumber, you tell a child that penis is cucumber and somebody is touching their penis, the child may not easily relate whatever happens well to their caregiver. They could say, he touched my cucumber, he touched another. So, in fact, it doesn't even give children the self-esteem to own their body. We call something body owning. When you understand the appropriate names of your sexual parts, then you can own it. Because we realize that some sexual predators as well use this against children. When they see that children don't know how to take care of themselves or own their body, their self-esteem is low, sexual predators use this against the children. Then we usually advise caregivers not to always leave children carelessly. We should have people who should be responsible to children at any point in time. So please never leave your children or your child unattended to. Whenever you're not there, ensure that there's someone who is responsible for your child. Then do something we call family mapping. Family mapping simply means that you should be able to identify who is around your child at any point in time, even if you're not there. You should be able to say, okay, so person has contact with my child. Then you should be able to map your environment out. Who are the ones who are likely to have contact or connection with my child? Your house help, the steward, the gatesman, the driver, your family and friends, people who come in and out of the house. So at the end of the day, when something happens, you'll be able to know who was with the child at a particular time. Teach children how to take care of themselves as well and how to say no. A lot of children don't know how to say no because we teach them to be very respectful to strangers. We're not saying that they shouldn't be respectful to strangers, but let them know that when they are not comfortable with a touch, they should be able to express themselves and say, no, don't touch me there. No, I will tell my dad. No, I will tell my mom. And that is why it is very important for parents to establish a very good relationship with children, because we realize that a lot of parents and caregivers, they don't have very good rapport and relationship with children. So when things like that happen, children don't even have the opportunity to convey or express whatever that is happening to them, to their child, to their handlers or their caregivers. Again, we realize that a lot of caregivers and parents don't trust children. I will tell you particularly that research has it that 95% of abuse that children report is actually real. So when a child tells you this is what is happening to me, there is a 95% chance that it is real. So we should be patient enough to listen to children when they want to say something, because we realize that children oftentimes don't talk, but when they talk, parents shut them down. And once parents shut them down, they don't say anything thereafter. So most times the abuse continues. Another thing we should know is that research has it that hardly will you find a stranger molesting a child. Most of the cases that we have treated in the past years has made us realize that mostly family and friends are the ones who get involved in the molestation of children. And who are we talking about? We're talking about people who are closely related to us, our friends, our families and friends of the family, people who have easy access to the house, people who we are vulnerable to, people who know our weaknesses, people who knows when we come in and when we go out, when we are not available, people who know that we don't have a good relationship with our children, people who know that our children are lacking in emotional health. They know that you don't have time for them, so they try to figure out ways to find those time for them so that they can use that to penetrate. We call it grooming. So we understand that people who live around us are the ones who actually sexually abuse our children. And we notice that it takes, they don't just stop once, they continue. Once they start, it is always very difficult for them to stop.
Many thanks for joining us on News on the Hour on Plus TV Africa. Here are the stories making the headlines, and I am Amaka Okoye. President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday met with the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, at the opening of the Russia-Africa Summit. Bashir Ahmad, personal assistant to President Buhari on new media, revealed this via his Twitter handle. Buhari met with President Putin to further strengthen relations in security, trade and investment, and building partnership that will enhance Nigeria's huge gas potential following Russia's remarkable success in gas exportation. Details in a subsequent bulletin. Now, a judge with the Federal High Court, Akure, Ondo State, Justice Abdul Dogo, has been kidnapped by unknown gunmen. Justice Dogo was abducted on Tuesday by unknown gunmen while he was returning to Akure from Abuja. A lawyer on condition of anonymity confirmed this development. Details will follow later. Now, an accident involving several vehicles has impeded flow of traffic on Otedola Bridge in Lagos. According to the Lagos State Traffic Management Agency, the accident is said to involve up to 10 vehicles, including a containerized truck, a pickup, and a high-capacity bus, as well as several cars. The accident affected motorists heading towards Bega. LASTMA advised motorists to use the CMD road from Secretariat towards Bega, pending further updates on the road. As of the time of filing this report, casualties were still trapped in the pickup, and emergency services were said to be on the ground. Moving on, Nigeria Security and Civil Service Defense in Kaduna State on Tuesday raided 2 rehabilitation homes in Zaria local government area of the state. At the center, known as Malam Aliyu May Adakun Salatu Fatil in Zaria, 11 inmates, mostly men and children, were rescued. The 2 centers are located at Limanchi Corner and Mamara, all in Zaria local government area of the state. Unlike previously discovered centers in Rigasa, the Zaria Rehabilitation Center had no female inmate. Deputy Commandant of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, Kaduna State Command, Nega Aloysius Onyema, who paraded the owners of the centers, also disclosed that 3 inmates died as a result of the unbearable conditions at the center. The raid on illegal rehabilitation homes started weeks after police rescued 300 inmates from a center in the same Rigasa area of the Kaduna State. All the inmates at the Zaria Center were in leg and hand chains. The NSCDC boss said the 11 inmates were rescued following an intelligence report gathered by the Corps. He added that the inmates are between the ages of 11 and 40 years old. Now, Jafaru Ahmed, Controller General of the Nigerian Correctional Service, says he has set up a panel to probe Ikoyi prisons, now known as Ikoyi Custodial Center, following an investigation by Fishayo Shoyombo, an undercover journalist. Shoyombo spent 8 days as an inmate in Ikoyi prison to track corruption in Nigeria's criminal justice system. He documented experiences on drug abuse, sodomy, bribery, pimping, and cash and carry operations at the facility. But responded in a statement on Tuesday night, Ahmed said those found guilty of the allegations would be punished. Ahmed said the service has no intention of arresting or harassing the journalist over his findings. The Nigeria Customs Service says it has arrested a syndicate of 15 people who allegedly rebag foreign rice as local rice for sale to unsuspecting consumers. The Controller of Customs in Adamawa and Taraba States Command, Kamadin Olomo, disclosed this on Tuesday when he led journalists to the scene of the crime at a warehouse in Yola, the Adamawa State capital. According to him, the suspects were found with 900 bags of rice with duty-paid value of 14.5 million naira. Olomo explained that operatives of the command busted the warehouse in conjunction with others from the Federal Operations Unit and Strike Force as part of efforts towards sustaining the fight against smuggling in the country. He revealed that 15 people, including the manager and laborers at the warehouse, were rounded up by the security operatives while carrying out their nefarious act. Still on national matter, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, has promised to lead a constitutional change that will give women better placement in the society. He spoke on Tuesday in Lagos at the 19th National Women's Conference of the Committee of Wives of Lagos State Officials. Gbajabiamila said education is the first step to empowering women and that he will champion the amendment to those constitutional impediments. The Speaker said it was time the Constitution is amended to accommodate whatever percentage is needed without discrimination against any sex. The wife of the President, Aisha Buhari, who was represented at the event by the wife of the Vice President, Dolapo Oshibajo, said women needed to be empowered to contribute to nation building. The chairperson of the group, Dr. Ibijoke Sonwolu, said women must strategically position themselves to take full benefit of government programs adding that in the 21st century, women must embrace new ideas to remain relevant. Now, the Nigerian Bar Association has rejected the impeachment of the Deputy Governor of Kogi State, Simon Achuba, by the State House of Assembly. Their umbrella body of lawyers said the impeachment was illegal and unconstitutional because it was against the findings of the probe panel raised by the State Chief Judge, which cleared Achuba of wrongdoings. The NBA, in a statement by its National Publicity Secretary, Kunle Edun, said it viewed the events with serious concerns and urged all parties to exercise great caution. And now with me in the studio is legal practitioner Liberos Oshoma, and he gives us legal interpretation of the development in Kogi State. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Okay, so very quickly, I'm sure you followed the event that happened. First of all, does the law recognize the impeachment of Simon Achuba?
No, not at all. In as far as that process is concerned, in the eye of the law, Simon Achuba is still the deputy governor, and so there was no vacuum in the office for Edward to have been sworn in, and so whether the chief judge of the state sworn in, another person or not is immaterial, as far as the law is concerned. And if you look at the section 188 of the 1999 Constitution that spells out the steps that must be followed, to impeach a governor, a deputy governor, because of time, specifically. If you go to subsection 8 of that section 188, it says where the panel reports, that's a panel set up to investigate the allegations raised by the assembly. Where the panel report to the House of Assembly that the allegation has not been proved, no further proceedings shall be taken in respect of that matter. Shall be the operative word here, compulsion. Shall be taken, no further proceedings. You can't go beyond that. And so the moment the panel led by a learned senior advocate heard that the allegations against the deputy governor were not proved by those who were alleging, and that ordinarily ended the matter. So every other steps taken subsequently became a nullity in the eye of our law. And so whether the chief judge of the state, was prompted or was threatened to swear in somebody else as deputy governor, it's really material here, because you cannot, you can't have two deputy governors in a state. And I say this advisedly because it is also very common for us here to say, let Simon Achuba go to court. It is not a question of going to court here. The issue is, has an illegality, an abuse of our constitution, be committed here? Yes, it has been. And so why do you now ask the man who has been wronged, who has been stolen from in broad daylight, instead of the state protecting him now? It's like a policeman standing right in traffic and then aiding an alleged criminal to steal your phone. And then he says, instead of chasing the criminal, arresting him, he says, go to courts. That's what basically is playing out here. And unfortunately, the Supreme Court, the same court, had opportunity of interpreting or having a bite on this same section 180, if you remember the Ladoja's case and the Peter Obi's case. And the court in that, because before then, it was the popular notion among lawyers that once a governor, a deputy governor is impeached by provisions of subsection 10 of section 188, that process cannot be challenged in courts. But because by challenging it would mean that interfering in the powers of the legislature. And the court in its wisdom said no, that you must comply strictly with the provisions of subsection 1 to 9 before you can invoke subsection 10. So in this case, the interpretation is that you must strictly comply with the provisions as laid down. And so when there is non-compliance, it amounts to a nullity. And so we shouldn't encourage illegality by saying that the man should go to court. I also expect, lastly, that the Attorney General should do a strongly worded legal opinion to the state governor to advise him, if let's assume that he doesn't know, to advise him. That's how Attorney General should behave and protect the law. It is his responsibility. I mean, the Attorney General of the Federation. Yeah. It is his responsibility to protect the law of the land, not just as a legal advisor to the executive, but also as the number one chief law officer of the state. So it's a slap, actually, on Attorney General, sitting Attorney General, when something like this happens and, he maintains a conspiracy of silence.
Having said that, you've given us the interpretation of the law there. Now, does the law, again, recognize the newly sworn in deputy or not?
I already said it that since there is no vacuum, you can't have, you can't, yes, he's there on his own, whether sworn in or not, because there is no vacuum. In as far as the law is concerned, there is no vacuum. If you remember, in Peter Obi's case, while the matter was in court, he was purportedly impeached, and so he approached the courts, and the court said, maintain status quo. While the matter was in court, election was conducted to fill the governorship seats that produced Andy Uba, then if you remember. And the court said, the Supreme Court said there was no vacuum. And so there was no vacuum for you to fill. So in the same interpretation, in the same vein, in the case of Kogi, the deputy governorship of Kogi, borrowing the words of, the Supreme Court, there was no vacuum to be filled for the new deputy governor, yes, to be sworn in. And so in the eye, that's why I said in the eye of the law, the deputy governor has not been impeached, because you just making a pronouncement that you hereby impeach him under what allegation? Because the beauty of the law is that that provision of Section 180 is the fact that impeachment being a very important aspect of governance, it did not, the drafters of the Constitution did not allow it to solely be